Thank you, everyone, our distinguished guests and speakers, valued sponsors, and all our participants who are logging in from Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world. We are glad to have you, and we have about 2.5 hour session scheduled in quality interactions. A little about the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum. This is the night session for the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum. And the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum is geared to be the forum where information security within the Nigerian capital market brings about the various stakeholders, subject matter experts, and we all collaborate to share ideas and experiences on information security best practice. The aim of the forum is to prevent cyber breaches, compliance risks, and deepen resilience within the Nigerian capital market and the global securities market at large. I would go on further in this program as I call on the Acting Chief Risk Officer of the Nigerian Exchange Limited, Mrs. Oluyemi Obadari, to take off from here. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you all on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's a great pleasure to have you all on this call this morning. I will be sharing my slide as I take us through what I call the opening charge. It's not a keynote speech. It is not an opening speech, rather it's an opening charge. As I welcome you to the 9th Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum themed Navigating the Post-Pandemic Cybersecurity Imperatives. I welcome all participants to this edition of the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum. At the Nigerian Exchange Limited, we provide a premier platform in Africa for raising capital, facilitate a thriving secondary market mission. In the same vein, we provide a platform that brings together various stakeholders in the Nigerian capital market, information technology industry, financial industry, professionals, and subject matter experts to collaborate, share ideas on information security best practices. At the exchange, we have continually upheld information security best practice and were certified to the ISO 27001:2013, the global standard for information security management system, for the 8th year running. And this we could not have achieved without an intentional and deliberate approach to cybersecurity. This is to say that security is not an afterthought. It's a deliberate approach. It's an intentional motive. It is significant to note that this is the first time we will be having this program in the context of a demutualized exchange. Again, we must recognize that cybersecurity is not just an organizational objective. It is a national strategic objective. The Office of the National Security Advisor in the month of October carried out a multi-stakeholder sensitization workshop on the implementation of 2021 among the financial and the capital market sectors. The National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy document sets to align the roadmap for the realization of the national cybersecurity objectives. It articulates the effort required from all stakeholders, both in the financial and the capital market sector and the other sector at large, to address the nation's cyber risk exposure. This was carried out in collaboration with Security Exchange Commission, SEC, and the Central Bank of Nigeria. And so you will find that today's NTMISF event ties in perfectly to the tripartite of the national, industrial, and organization strategic objective for cyber risk management. The coronavirus has accelerated the second digital revolution, not seen since the dot-com boom of the early 20s. Likewise, it has made criminals mind at all the more motivated to innovate and digitize their attacks, as there has been an increase in the demand for information online. COVID-19 did not only cause a health pandemic, but a cybercrime pandemic too. Its effects have drastically changed the way we live, the way we interact, the way we... The rising cost of cybercrime. There's so much at stake. So this picture tells us the world economies by size. So we have the US, we have China, and then between the US and China, we know the story. Then thirdly, the largest economy is cybercrime, before Japan, before Germany, before India. The largest economy now is the cybercrime economy. The rising cost of cybercrime, it was predicted in 2013, it was at $3 trillion. 2021 is being predicted to be at $6 trillion. And in 2025, the rising cost, the cost of cybercrime to the world will be at $10.5 trillion. Cybercrime is more profitable than the global drug trade. The cybercrime costs more per year than all natural disasters, than even the disasters of COVID-19 pandemic itself. So this brings it to fore. This makes it a topic of national, industrial, and organizational discourse. For us at the Exchange, we have been beaming the torch as far back. And I could say to you today that we have had 8 editions of the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum with themes so far. The first theme ever was, how prepared is your business to withstand cyber security breaches? Followed by why capital market executives should take identity theft seriously. This is hijack of your data, of your personality, hijack of your person. Preventing identity theft in the capital market. What do you do when you get hacked? We further went to, does your business have the resilience to survive a disaster, the business case for business continuity, even before the advent of COVID-19? Defending against cybercrime, becoming a cyber resilient organization. Social engineering, the neglected human factor. 2019, we had the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation achieving compliance at the verge of Nigerian government launching the NDPR. Last year, we had COVID-19, the global pandemic, and the survival strategies. Today, I welcome you to the 9th Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum, the forum where thought leaders, subject matter experts, and professionals will share experiences and ideas on post-pandemic effects, survival strategies, and the optimal pathways for the capital market and the ecosystem at large. The theme for the 2021 is navigating the post-pandemic cybersecurity imperatives. Thank you very much. I welcome back Jide on the call to take us through the section. We're in for a time of learning, relearning, unlearning, and learning again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. You've heard it. Post-pandemic, cybercrime economy is one of the largest. It is the largest economy. And post-pandemic, the cyber attackers and the malicious actors have gone to re-strategize. They have gone to retool. They've gone to relearn. And now they are unleashing their nefarious expertise around the world. How prepared are you? That is what our speakers will be helping us to build our capabilities in this area. Before we go further to bring our speakers on and give you their profiles, let's have 1 or 2 videos to set the tone rolling and to let us know how best we can prepare against these attackers. So let's have a look at videos and let's stay tuned. Thank you.
Phishing is a method of trying to gather personal information using deceptive emails and websites. Stay tuned for what you need to know about this increasingly sophisticated form of cyber attack. The goal of phishing is to trick an email recipient into believing that the message is something they want or need, a request from their bank, for instance, or a note from someone in their company, and to click a link or download an attachment. Fish is pronounced just like it's spelled, which is to say like the word fish. The analogy is of an angler throwing a baited hook out there, the phishing email, and hoping you bite. What really distinguishes phishing is that attackers masquerade as a trusted entity of some kind, often a real or plausibly real person or a company the victim might do business with. It might be your boss, your bank, or a company whose software you use. Perhaps one of the most consequential phishing attacks in history happened in 2016, when Russian hackers managed to get Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, John Podesta, to offer up the password to his personal Gmail account. How did they do it? The hackers sent an email warning Mr. Podesta that someone had his password and that he should change it immediately. Clicking on a link in the email took him to a fake login page. This is a classic ploy, and one all of us would hope we would see for what it is. But email scammers are constantly honing their craft, trying new pitches, and pulling new strings. One way to get familiar with their tactics is to study the email messages that scammers send. Here are a few real-world examples and how they work. 1. Your account has been hacked. The person sending this threatening phishing message found a group email that was publicly available on the company's site. Using that list to target the message was smart. Not so smart was the content of the message, in which the would-be attacker reveals a lack of understanding of how malware works. 2. Password reset. Taking advantage of the fact that no one wants to miss a paycheck, messages like this one aim to trick the user into revealing important data, often a username and password that the attacker can use to breach a system or account. 3. Payment request. This email has enough information specific to the target company to give even the most phishing-savvy recipients pause. The key to not getting caught in this trap is to know your company's processes and to be able to spot anomalies. 4. Charity donation. Here the scammer is counting on the greed and gullibility of the recipient. This theme of giving something away for free is a common one and preys on human nature. The key thing to remember is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.
Thank you so much. We'll be going into the next video. As they say, connecting to a public Wi-Fi is so easy, and at the same time, it makes
joined here by Mike Sasanskin from Synac. You're going to show us how easy it is to hack into a computer. So this is my personal computer.
So in this attack, we will pretend to be a wireless access point that you normally connect to, let's say in a hotel. So if you go in there and you try to log into something called Four Seasons Guest.
Okay.
As you'd expect, it's, the Wi-Fi is around, you'd want to be able to connect to it, and a person who just arrived will think, I'm a guest, I should connect to the guest network.
Sure.
So now if you go to a website that you would normally use, like Yelp.com.
Okay.
And normally what happens when you go to a website just after you've logged into a hotel network, it says, oh, please log in, you're a new user. So here it's asking for your room number and last name, which it would normally do. Right? And actually I can see your information show up here. And so part of the attack is that it tries to convince you that you need to do an update. Your machine is out of date and it's vulnerable. So you want to click on the download button because it's sort of convincing you to do this. And once you've executed, that's it. You already have been exploited. I can see it here. It says Aditya's MacBook. Let's say if I want to take a screenshot of your of your webcam, right?
Okay.
So I have a special command here for essentially accessing your little camera right here. So if I say execute, there we go.
I just saw a green light pop up there for a second.
For a second, but now it's already too late. And I already know what's going on around you.
Oh, wow.
There we go. This particular attack, it recorded the picture, but you can actually record the video. You can also record sound if you wanted to.
That's really disturbing.
You can execute things on the behalf. So what I'm going to try to do is actually open the calculator application.
Okay.
Here we go.
There's my calculator. It just popped up.
I can basically execute any types of commands I want on your behalf.
So what can people do to protect themselves?
You should sort of be on the lookout for anytime you sort of do an action and then the computer asks you to do something on your behalf. Like, you downloaded something and said, hey, please enter your password. If you didn't expect that to happen, maybe you should kind of stand back a little bit and say, well, does it normally happen when I log into a Wi-Fi access point? Or if you are logging into a network and you didn't expect to be redirected to an update page, you should kind of stand back a little bit and say, actually, I'm not going to download this until I go home and I can trust my Wi-Fi.
Well, thank you so much. Great to see this.
Glad to have the opportunity to hack your machine.
Thanks.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube.
So thank you so much. We'll be going into the next on our agenda. We'll be looking at having our speakers speak to us on the various topics which we have outlined for the program. Building resilience against ransomware, managing third-party risks in the digital world. We'll be having information security journey from Mary Stem Stockbrokers and securing your online presence from Infoware. We have our speakers for the 2021 NC ISF speakers. John Ayaun, partner Cyber and Privacy KPMG. Chika Nwachuku, manager Digital Risk and Cybersecurity from PwC. Oladotun Olorunyomi, head IT at Meristem Stockbrokers Limited. And Uwa Agbonile, CEO and Chief Software Architect, Infoware Limited. The first that will be taken is from KPMG, John Ayaun. He will be speaking with us on building resilience against ransomware. John Ayaun is the partner and lead of the cyber and privacy practice of KPMG Nigeria. He has specific responsibilities for building cybersecurity competencies and capabilities within KPMG Nigeria and Africa as a region. He is responsible for leading engagement teams to assist KPMG Nigeria clients and with their cybersecurity and privacy assessment and exercises, as well as cybersecurity and privacy capacity building and transformation initiatives. John has led teams spanning multiple geographies, including Nigeria, Ghana, Gabon, Guinea, Mali, South Africa, Kenya, Zambia, and the Mozambique, and worked with KPMG teams outside Africa in the US, UK, Netherlands, Germany, Finland, Cyprus, Portugal, and India. John has over 17 years management, technology, and risk consulting experience, and his industry focus includes energy, financial services, telecommunications, consumer and industrial technology, and government also. John is also the National IT Security Officer for KPMG Nigeria, and as a firm, and also within the KPMG Global Network. He has responsibilities for implementing strategies and measures to secure the firm's vital information assets. John has chaired, moderated, and spoken at several leading conferences in Nigeria and Africa, such as Africa CEO Forums, ISACA Africa Conferences, KPMG Africa Cyber Conferences and Webinars, the CBN NEF Conferences, the CBN's Nigerian Electronic Fraud Forum, and also the West Africa Cybersecurity Forum Summit, REMAN conferences, and ICANN conferences, and so much more. we have the honor to learn from John, to have John tell us how to build resilience against ransomware. Ransomware is what? Ransomware is a debilitating attack and one of the highest risk attacks against critical national infrastructures and service provisions globally. Thank you so much, John. We have the honor to learn from you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jide. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the kind citation. If you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and share my screen so that I can put it in presentation mode. Can I do that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So please let me know when you can see my screen.
So yes, I can see your screen right now.
Okay. And can you see it in presentation mode?
Yes, it is in presentation mode.
Okay, great. All right. So once again, thanks for the opportunity to make this presentation. And just as you rightly noted, we'll be talking about building resilience against ransomware as part of the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum session. Now, in terms of outline, I'm going to look at this outline in three broad areas: understanding ransomware, looking at the risk and impact of ransomware, and then looking at building resilience strategies as well. So let's go into understanding ransomware. Now, what we've seen is that, the COVID pandemic really accelerated digital change. In fact, there has never been any catalyst or any event that accelerated digital change as quickly or as effectively as the COVID pandemic. Before the pandemic, most of the meetings were being done physically. Video conferencing tools were used by just a few people. Sessions like this, for instance, and I've attended a number of sessions organized by the Exchange. These sessions are done physically in the Exchange conference room. But today we're doing this virtually. So that just speaks to what has happened as a result of the pandemic. Now, remote communication is the norm, and most businesses have moved significantly to remote working. And, most people say that remote working is here to stay. Even businesses that are going to be working physically will always have that hybrid capability, because some of your business partners, for instance, will still be working remotely. So clearly, this is where we are today, and it will continue to be, it's more or less almost a permanent change. Any other thing will just be a build-up on top of this. Now, what we've then seen is that with this new way of working, there is then an increased risk. There's an increased risk in terms of cyber criminals capitalizing on this disruption. And we've seen that over and over again in different forms of attacks that are being launched by cyber criminals. The two videos that played, one of them talked about phishing. The other one went elaborately to talk about really the growth of the cyber economy or the cyber crime economy. And it can only continue to grow because of the impact that comes from cyber attacks. And today, businesses can't even afford to be disrupted with respect to communication or networking or connectedness. And that's where we've seen cyber criminals paying much attention to. Now, if we talk about ransomware, ransomware is one of the ways in which cyber criminals attack systems, is one of the ways that they attack systems. It's a type of malicious software that prevents users from accessing their systems or personal files by encrypting those systems or files and then demanding a ransom for payment to release access to the victim. So in other words, your laptop or your company's server of certain files, you just get into the office in the morning and then you realize that you can't access it anymore. You can't do the things you do on a regular basis anymore. And then you see a message showing that you need to pay so and so amount for you to gain access. This snapshot here is a good example. This came from the WannaCry. So this is what those that were the victims, this is what they saw. The moment they put on their system, they see this. They say your file has been encrypted, and see how structured and proper the user interface is. It tells you what happened to my computer. Your important files are encrypted. Many of your documents, photos, videos, and databases are no longer accessible because they have been encrypted. Maybe you are busy looking for a way to recover, but don't waste your time. Nobody can recover your files without our decryption service. And then you then talk about how you can recover your files. Okay, we guarantee that you can recover your files safely and easily, but you don't have enough time. They say, okay, try now, and so you have only 3 days to pay. You have to make a payment. After that, the price will be doubled. If you don't pay in 7 days, you will not be able to recover your files forever. So this is now the threat. And then they talk about having free events for users. So we will have free events for users who are so poor they couldn't pay in 6 months. How do I pay? Payment is accepted in Bitcoins, $300 worth of Bitcoin, and then they give you a countdown of the time left. If you look at the left side, you will see where they talk about Bitcoin, talk about contact us. And I remember some of the organizations said when they clicked on contact us, they actually had a very professional customer service desk at the background, responding to them on the challenges that they had. This is how organized and how structured, and almost, if you permit me to say, this is how professional the ransomware sector is, and how effective they are as well. Now, clearly, the WannaCry event was the time when ransomware gained, became very famous because so many people were attacked. Over 200,000 computers across over 150 countries were affected. And one of those major targets was the National Health Service in England, which is the NHS, which immediately threw the services of the National Health Service organization into chaos. And had significant impact. You can imagine then that systems that were being used for MRI scans, blood storage refrigerators, surgical theater equipment, these systems were completely taken over as a result of the WannaCry. And I'm going to talk about that a bit more on this presentation, but there are some, you can immediately think about the costs to organizations when there is a ransomware attack. There are tangible costs. In other words, you can see loss of revenue, you can see the cost to recover, those kind of costs. But there are also intangible costs. Intangible costs are cost to reputation, which in a worst case scenario can actually even wipe out the ability of that business to continue. And therefore, for example, in these days when we talk about environmental sustainability and governance, there's even a sustainability aspect to this as well. So with this whole massive shift towards remote working, with this whole massive shift towards building a digital ecosystem, clearly ransomware is one area that even the players on the capital market, particularly because you are connected in a lot of ways digitally, that's one area where you really need to be very concerned about, and if you look at this slide also, you will see, for instance, where we talk about, so 41% have reported attacks, 41% of reported attacks are ransomware attacks. And this is a survey done by Habenash and KPMG in 2020. An organization said 41% of those organizations said the attacks that they had were ransomware attacks. That seems to be the most popular of cyber attacks today. 51% of the companies said they had a ransomware incident in the last year, and then and then some companies reported 100% increase in the average ransom demand between 2019 and Q1 of 2020. This has even increased exponentially based on some studies we've done between 2020 and 2021. This has also more than doubled. So you can imagine that from 2019 to 2021, that there has been an exponential increase in the volume of attacks, in other words, the number of incidents, and even in the payment that is required for organizations. And organizations will continue to wrap their heads around this to say, how do we respond to ransomware attacks? Because that seems to be the immediate impact of most cyber attacks today. Yeah, so, and then of course, you see the one around 6 months in 2020 in that instance as well. Now, if I might just move to the next slide, this slide just speaks to how pervasive ransomware attacks have turned out to be. And this is in the news, of course, global news. So you will see, for instance, they said 3 Bitcoin wallets that were tied to ransomware received 265 payments. 265 payments that totaled about some $6,000. And this is really, if you use the valuation of 2017, if you value these Bitcoins today, it's probably going to be 10 times or 20 times those amounts. The other thing you will also notice is that a number of those organizations, so you look at ransomware wreaking havoc in American and Canadian hospitals. I've talked about that. So the health sector, for instance, particularly in more developed climes, have been affected significantly by ransomware attacks. Also, the law enforcement as well, agencies have been affected. But beyond that, also, if you follow the news early this year, one of the pipeline organizations in the US, and this is like a colonial pipeline, it has been there for many years, also had this kind of attack that had even significant social impact. And the more we leverage technology, the more we rely on technology for a lot of services, whether it is utilities, whether it is financial services, at least these ones are very popular in our country, health, for example, and so on and so forth. The more we leverage this technology, then imagine when they are taken off by virtue of a cyber attack, a ransomware attack, imagine the social impact that there will be in that instance. So let me then go into the risk and impact of a ransomware attack. And before I even talk about that, one of the things that we've seen is that ransomware attacks have also changed before COVID and now post-COVID. Before COVID, people were, there was just a broad attack path. So if you look at the WannaCry, for instance, there was no specific target really. It was just broadly sent to everybody. And then those that were caught up with it, they were asked to pay, almost like a retail attack, more or less, which is why we were paying 300 Bitcoins and those kind of amounts. But post-COVID, there have been targeted attacks. So a ransomware attack that is targeted at an institution or targeted at an organization. So before COVID, broad level attacks, post-COVID, targeted attacks as well. Before COVID, it was common for cyber criminals to encrypt files or local businesses and just say, until you pay, you will not be allowed to pay. But today, what we've seen, and I've seen that in a number of organizations that I work for, is that these cyber criminals, they will also take data out. So they will exfiltrate data. So beyond just encrypting and saying pay, they will smuggle data out. And of course, when you smuggle data out, there's then the whole exposure around data breach. We talk about data protection today. So immediately there's a data breach, there's a data leakage, and then you have to then be dealing with the data privacy issue that comes from that. And I think what I've also seen with one organization that I'm very conversant with was that when they smuggled the data out, they were warned that if you don't pay, we will publish this data in the public domain, and then you then have a major data privacy issue on your hand. Normally, attackers used to just send in malware, maybe through phishing, just similar to the phishing that we've seen, and I'm talking pre-COVID. So they will send in malware, they will encrypt vulnerable systems, and then they just go through that process. But today, attackers establish their presence in the system, and we've seen even some of the global data breaches that we've studied. We've seen that the attackers have been in the system sometimes 6 months, 12 months, even 24 months. You will have evidence to show that these people were in our system for a long period of time. They establish presence. They become privileged users or administrators, and then they begin to encrypt key systems. So, but by establishing presence, they take their time to understand the way the systems are. They know where the critical systems are, and then they focus on those particular systems. So that's the way we've seen it evolve over time. Now, clearly, organizations of all sizes, they will continue to be challenged by this. And no matter how you try to strategize or plan or prevent or identify, you go through what we call the cybersecurity framework with respect to cyber attacks. The biggest challenge is that these attackers come through many, many loopholes or many, many vulnerabilities. And so really, while we are talking about trying to prevent a ransomware attack, we're talking about really from a prevention standpoint, basically trying to secure your entire security infrastructure, as the case may be. And these are just a few statistics in terms of the impact. 66% of companies that were surveyed, and this was a survey done by the 2020 Ransomware Resilience Report. So 66% of companies surveyed, these companies said that it took them about 5 or more days to recover from a ransomware attack if they didn't pay the ransom. So that's a cost. Another study said 95% of companies said they experienced outages that were up to 117 minutes. Some other companies said they spend 300,000 per hour on the average. That's the cost of a downtime. And then, of course, the Cyber Insurance Institute, Conmon, estimated that the average cost of an unplanned outage is nearly 540,000 per hour. These are large amounts, estimates nonetheless, but regardless, in reality, these are significant costs to business. So once there is a ransomware attack, immediately there is a business reality on your hand, and then you just see the way financial losses, reputational losses, the threat of regulatory sanctions, all of that just kick in immediately, and then can translate into significant, uncomfortable moments, even for the principal officers of those businesses. I'll just touch on a few of the risks, and this is by no means exhaustive. Just a few of the risks that we see as a result of a cyber attack, and there are just a few examples on this slide. Let me just try and take them one after the other. So I've talked about the loss of or reduction in productivity due to inability to access those systems or the data or systems. And if you're a business that is reliant on technology, on data, you can imagine what that would be. Even in our own individual offices, I mean, if you use your laptop, your computers to deliver reports, to turn in your deliverables, imagine that system is not available for a day or two. Then think about the impact that it will have on your own productivity. So there's loss or reduction in productivity. For those that back up, depending on how often you take backup, restoring data from an older recovery point can result in significant amount of loss of transactions. And if you are a transaction-driven business, if you lose transactions for a day or two, you can then imagine the impact of that transaction loss as well. So those are other examples. Sorry, just a second. Let me. Yeah, then another one is around data encryption. So data that is encrypted during the attack may not be able to be recovered, and then there can be also result in loss of data. Paying the ransom can lead to being targeted more in future. There are lots of arguments today around paying ransom. Is it right to pay ransom? Does it help to pay ransom, and so on and so forth? So many arguments in that regard. Well, to be honest, all options have been used by businesses. I've seen businesses that have said, let's have a conversation with these people. In fact, there are some organizations that position themselves as negotiators for ransomware attacks. So they are like negotiator organizations, and they will say, we will help you to negotiate with the ransomware attacker and see how you can reach an amount that is, that at least is not too much, and they try and extract certain commitments from the ransomware attacker. So almost making it a trust business in as it were. So in any case, of course, we know that by the time you pay that ransom, yeah, you can be targeted more in future. That risk is clearly a present risk. There are financial liabilities that can result from inability to perform your business functions. You have service level agreements, you have business commitments, you have commitments to your customers, commitments to your vendors, commitment to your investors as well, and even other stakeholders, to the regulators. The moment you're not able to meet those commitments, it can result in significant financial liability. Of course, for those that leverage cyber insurance, and that's one, there's been a lot of talk about cyber insurance. It's slowly gaining popularity in our own market, but it's clearly an area that will be more and more popular in future. Now, if organizations don't understand the nuances or the technicalities of those policies, you can even have a greater financial impact by the time you want to make those claims and you realize that you're not even entitled to those claims. If the data has been manipulated by cyber criminals, then how wouldn't that raise questions around the integrity of the data? That's another point, because any data that has been touched by those criminals, or the malware in this case, it can bring into question the integrity of the data. There are other ones around legal and professional fees. Some say even if you pay the ransom, it might not restore decrypted files, and the face of the ransomware attacker is not transparent, so you can't even hold anybody by the time you make that payment, and you don't get you don't get those files decrypted. And then the last point is around reputational risk. So the risks around ransomware attack are significant, and even for those that play in the capital market, you think about the data, the data of investors that you have. Think about the data of transactions that you are facilitating, or that you are enabling or processing. Just think about that, and imagine that there is a widespread ransomware attack, within the capital markets. The impact is extremely, extremely disruptive, and clearly catastrophic even at the social level as well. So let me go into this is my last slide. Yes, this is my last slide, and I'll just spend a bit of time on this slide. So this slide, I'm looking now at what are the resilience strategies? What are the resilience strategies with respect to ransomware attack, and how do you build those resilience strategies? Now, in building the resilience strategies, there are two sides to cover. There's a proactive approach, and then there's a reactive approach, and both of them are important. The proactive approach helps you to prepare adequately for an attack. The reactive approach helps you to respond quickly. Some of the proactive approaches even include, assuming there's an attack, do you have the systems and facilities in place to gather enough intelligence to respond to the attack, enough intelligence to make your insurance claims, enough intelligence to defend to kind of explain to the regulator, because for the regulator, you need to demonstrate that it's not gross negligence. Yes. And how do you have enough evidence to show the regulator that we have tried to keep our house in order, but this is more like something that it was out of our control, as the case may be. So there are a number of things or a number of points here, and I'll just take these points one after the other. Under proactive, we talk about assessing the basics. Now, a number of, in fact, almost more than 90% actually of successful attacks come down to basic controls. Basic defenses. These attackers will always go to those organizations that have low defenses or that have weak defenses. So what are those basic controls? Access, for instance. Access is an example. When you want to, what are your access control mechanisms? Access control mechanisms in terms of accessing your emails online. Do you use multi-factor authentication, or is it just one password? If you enforce multi-factor authentication, it then means that even if your password is compromised, or even if the attacker has your password, he still needs something else, either a soft token or a one-time password, or needs a hard token to access it. The person might need your phone. Your phone can be another factor. Two-factor means it can be a combination of what you know, such as your password, what you have, such as your phone, or who you are, such as maybe your fingerprint or your retina scan, as the case may be. Once you have a combination of at least two, all right, you make it more and more difficult for the attacker to take over. Assess the basics. Another example of basics is around auditing. Do you audit your user names, user identities in your system? Are there users that you don't know? Are there usernames that are generic? Do you check even the privileges that are given to those users? Is somebody an administrator that should not be an administrator? What can those users do on your systems? Do you check whether they still need to do those things? And therefore, you can have a least privilege access control principle. That's what we call it. On a regular basis, also, check your defenses. Look at your configuration, look at how you're administering your systems, look at audit your systems on an ongoing basis. And that speaks to assessing the basics. If you do these basics, you sort of put yourself in a good position, assuming that one is being attacked. Another aspect of basics, and I'll not go into it per se, but I see on the agenda that we have third-party risks as an area that there will be a presentation around. Third party is a key one. Most of us use one third party or the other. It can be the IT support organization that helps you manage your systems. It can also be a business partner for business-to-business communications. It can be your customers as well that have one level of access to your systems or the other, just to enable them perform self-service activities. Those access identities or access functionalities on an ongoing basis, you need to test it and be sure that that it is as it's supposed to be, that it is adequate. So the next point is around training and awareness. Now, let me speak a bit about training and awareness. In terms of training and awareness, you need to educate your people to protect themselves against these attackers, to protect themselves and your organization against these attackers. Now, and that's a critical line of defense, because at the end of the day, you are as strong as your weakest link, as we say, and users are an integral element of your network landscape or your network connection or your IT environment. Those users need to have the level of knowledge and intelligence to protect you, and therefore, even if it's phishing attacks, for instance, if a user knows about phishing, the user will not click on a phishing email. The example that was in the video talked about John Podesta, that was told that he's being hacked and that he should click to change his password, and immediately he clicked. Perhaps if he had looked a bit carefully, he would not have clicked, or he would have looked for other ways to validate that email. The question is, if you are attacked, will you be informed by email? Are there no other ways in which you'll be reached out to? So those are the things that you need to look at in terms of educating users. Phishing campaigns, very critical. Run regular phishing campaigns. There are so many artifacts or so many trainings online, e-learning training, training on YouTube, basic training for users. You need to expose your users to that so that they will understand. Sometimes some people need specialized training, whether it is people in IT or people in management, they need specialized training. For those ones as well, you need to organize that training for them so that they will know. A session like this, for instance, the Nigerian Capital Markets Information Security Forum, is a way of also training and awareness. We also need to participate in more fora like this so that we'll know what we need to do. The other point is around remote working, and this has become very important. Because of remote, of course, we are working remotely today. So remote working is another area that we need to pay attention to. How do we want to pay attention to this area? Let us check the devices that people are connecting to. Are those devices secure devices? Who are the users of those devices? What kind of data is being made available on those devices? Is confidential data made available? Are there controls to maintain the confidentiality of those data? Make sure that you can monitor systems in such a way that if a system is compromised, you get an alert, you get a flag, and you can quickly quarantine that system and take it off the network before it infects other systems. Do you check the vulnerabilities on your systems to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities that can be attacked by, that can be taken advantage of by an attacker? So ongoing remote working assessment is something that you need to do on a regular basis. The other point is around penetration testing. Penetration testing is essentially just saying on an ongoing basis, assess the strength of your network by way of penetration testing. That's when you bring in an ethical hacker, you bring in a security organization, or if you have those skills in-house, your own penetration testers can try to mimic the activities of attackers. They will try to break into your system. They will try to hack into your system to see whether there are weaknesses in your system that an attacker can easily take advantage of. So that's something that one should do proactively. Take your backups proactively. Test your backups. That's around backup and restore. Take backups on proactively. In other words, just know that you are always as protected as your last backup if a ransomware occurs. So how often do you take your backups? Do you take your backups daily? Do you take your backups weekly? How often do you need to take your backup? Have a process around that. Think, and in deciding on how often you should take your backups, what you need to ask yourself is, if I lose data for 1 day, what will be the impact on my business? If I lose data for 2 days, what will be the impact of my business? And if you use that, you can then say, okay, I think I can manage if I lose data for 3 days. If I lose my data for 3 days, I can still recover. And then 3 days becomes, you make sure you take your backup on every 3 days. You can say, no, I have to take backup on a daily basis. Today, there are systems that enable backup. So with those systems, you can automate your backup process. It doesn't have to be something that is manually done. Today, if you also use systems that are in the cloud-based system, you can also have redundancies, what we call geographic redundancies, such that there is a snapshot of your data in the US, another snapshot in Germany, another snapshot in South Africa, so that if your data is corrupted in the US, at least you can pick up the South Africa version and use it to do work. So those are all examples of the things that you can do. Can you still hear me? Please confirm if you can hear me.
Oh, yes, we can.
Okay. So this is my last slide, so I'll be rounding up very shortly. I think the last point is just the reactive one. Reactive is just then making sure that you have some processes in place, cyber incident response capabilities. You have what we call playbooks. Playbooks are just procedures that you say, these are the steps that I'll take if I'm attacked. You also have processes around communication and public relations, so that if you're attacked, you know who to talk to. You have the message that you can put out there if you're attacked. Having legal support as well, the right legal framework, having the right insurance policies, as the case may be. Essentially, these are all tips that one can use in the event of an attack. So I think I'll just stop at this slide, as I said, and then we'll just take, if there are any questions or any comments or feedback, I can take it at this time.
Thank you so much, John. We'll be taking questions at the end of the sessions.
Okay.
So to manage our time.
Sure. I think it's fine. I mean, there is one very quick one I saw in the chat, but I said, is it safe to save password with Notes mobile app? I mean, it's not safe to save your password anywhere. So use passwords or passphrases that are difficult to guess, but are easy for you to remember. That's the way I'll just respond to that very quickly. Otherwise, thank you for paying attention, and then we can take any further questions at the end of the session as advised. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, John. You heard from John. Your questions will be taken at the end of the sessions. You can be rest assured. So please keep them rolling in. Thank you so much once again, John, for telling us how to deter and build resilience against ransomware. Cybercrime criminals are finding it lucrative and they are increasing their activity in that area. Next speaker we'll bring on board will be from PwC, and he'll be speaking to us on how to manage third-party risk. Before bringing him on board, so just imagine you have a program, a function, you got the Ashore very late, and you have to rely on the fashion designers to help you deliver the product. So you'll be managing risks around the delivery timeline, and the expected output. Also, perhaps you patronize automotive repairers, and you have to manage the endpoint, the final service that is delivered to you, if it meets your need. But these are non-digital interactions. So for digital interactions, we'll look onto Chika, who will be giving us insights in this area. Chika is a manager in PwC's cybersecurity and privacy practice. He works with clients in implementing several standards, frameworks, and best practices to examine, uplift, and align their information security and cybersecurity business resilience postures with industrial best practice. He has a consistent track record of success in helping companies across the continent stay secure and resilient against sophisticated cyber threats and several business disruptions. Chika is your strategy to execution go-to person, that cyber and resilience partner with a vibrant track record of leading cyber risks, information security, business continuity, data privacy, and payment card industry data security standard services for many companies in the varying sectors of the economy. And these companies include those in the banking and financial services, IT services, government, insurance, energy, and telecoms. Chika has advised executives and boards across the various industries, and he is an MBA holder. Thank you so much, Chika. We look to hearing from you on managing these third-party risks. So thank you so much. I'll yield the floor to Chika Nwachiku from PwC. Thank you so much. So it's good to have Chika on board. Chika, you could just share your screen. You could manage the presentation yourself. And if you so desire, we can also do this on our own.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Chika.
All right, so thank you. Could you just give me a second or two to share my screen?
Yeah, sure, we can. Yes. So we can see your screen.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
So my name is Chika. Thanks for the citation. And I work out of PwC, cybersecurity, digital risks, and data privacy practice. I'm also a manager there. And I will present you. Can you hear me?
It's better now.
So I'll be presenting on managing third-party risks in the digital. And my outline is as follows. I'll be talking about the third-party risk management framework, discussing case studies, common TPRM challenges, and also managing cyber risks from third parties, as well as introducing a third-party tracker solution for third-party risk management. So without much ado, so let's just get straight into the activities of today. So I just want to do a slight introduction about third-party risks and of course, living in a digital era. So we live in a digital era and we're continuously undergoing lots and lots of digital transformations. And for us to carry out these digital transformations, we need the help of third parties. I have you talking about third party.
Chika, your voice is trailing in and out.
Okay. Okay, so hold on, let me see if I could be able to switch network.
We may share your video, we may share your presentation for you so that you can only just speak to it. Do you?
Oh, hold on, I'll be able to do that. Okay, please, can you confirm if you can hear me now? And if it's better.
Yeah, pretty much better now. Let's.
Right. All right, thank you. All right. Okay, all right. So as I was saying, we live in a digital era, and for us to help and continuously, we are trying to, transform, to conduct some kind of digital transformations, try to introduce much more digital technologies to organizations, our companies, and to help do that, we need the help of third-party service providers. And these third-party service providers are vital to organizations' operations, to our growth, to the organization's goals, strategies, visions, and all that. And because, of course, they are the best way, or so, if not the best way, they are a good way of delivering these digital transformations and objectives. But there's one thing that we need to know. As we work or partner with these third parties, they become part of the organization's operations. And in doing that, we share the same strengths and weaknesses with organizations. So every risk or weaknesses that abide or occur or go around in those organizations also affects or find a way to affect our company's operations and all that. So where companies fail to protect their internal network, they fail to protect their data, they fail to protect their assets, and they fail to institute these checks on these third parties that they work with, or require them to deploy contracts that ensure that these third parties institute security measures to protect their assets, then they will have a lot of risks to deal with, and that's what I want to discuss in this session. There are industry experts all over the world estimate that about 60% of all data breaches happen via third-party vendors. So third-party risks are quite multifaceted, and of course, for such multifaceted approach to require a kind of integrated multifaceted approach to address all these risks, and that's what we'll be discussing in this study section of ours. So let's go through to the third-party risk management framework. All right. So for this framework, I don't want for the larger audience that we have to be familiar with some of the key definitions that have to be third party. So what is the third party? The legal entity, whether or not it's affiliated with the enterprise legal entity, and it's in a third-party relationship with the legal entity. So it can be a partner.
Chika, yeah, I think we should just present this video for you so that you can only use voice. So that helps, and that helps you manage the projection.
Okay.
The NGX team would help you share your slides while you just speak to the slides, because your voice keeps going in and out, and we're already taking almost 5 minutes into your time. You have just 20 minutes. Okay, so you can put that on your screen while we put it up from our end.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Get this under control.
Okay, thank you. So
the next slide, okay.
Okay, fine. Okay, so what is a third-party relationship? It's It's a business arrangement or arrangement by either contract or otherwise between a client entity and another entity. We'll talk about third-party risks in the course of our session. And of course, there are different types of third-party risks. You have operational, people, legal and regulatory risks, cybersecurity risks, reputational risks, and all that. This will also be discussed. What is a third-party risk management? This is a process by which the client or the company identifies, mitigates, monitors, measures, and reports the risks associated with source products or services from third parties. Next slide, please. So, what are the categories of these digital risks? Now, these categories of digital risks, some of them form part of the third-party risks that we're going to discuss. And they range from process automation risks, risks that have to do with the process automation, digital transformation, resilience risks that have to do with high availability, cloud technology risks that have to do with your cloud migrations, compliance risks that, of course, deal with your compliance to regulatory laws or regulations in your industry, your respective industry, cybersecurity risks. So all these are form parts of the third parties, and we'll discuss some of this in the case studies. Next slide, please. Okay, so now let's get down to case studies on typical third-party management risks that we have all over the world. I'll be using 2 or 3 case studies, and the ones that I feel that are quite familiar with a lot of industry experts. I don't know if you could just click on that hyperlink first, the one above. Yeah, yes. Okay, so for third-party risks, the major challenge is you cannot really control what you can't see. So we're talking about SolarWinds case studies, for instance. And SolarWinds is a company that develops software for businesses to help manage their networks, their systems, and information technology infrastructure. So we are talking about the third-party risks that SolarWinds hosts for many organizations out there. So just like most software companies, they send updates to their systems, their solutions, and in doing that, they mistakenly sent out a software update to customers that included a hacked code without their knowledge. So hackers broke into the SolarWinds systems and added malicious codes into the company's software system. Now, that system is called Orion and is widely used by companies all over the world to manage IT resources. SolarWinds has over 33,000 customers all over the world. And up to about 18,000 of these customers installed these updates that left them vulnerable to hackers. So SolarWinds, which serves as a vendor for more than 3,000 customers, the attack affected a whole lot of customers all over the world and impacted government agencies and businesses. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Let's go to example 2. So another case study is Ascension Data Analytics LLC. Now, this is a mortgage analytics company that hired a third-party service provider, Optics ML, to use OCR, that's optical character recognition techniques, to scan mortgage documents. And you know, when you hear mortgage documents, they have a lot of data that deals with your name, your accounts, your payments, and all the mortgage payments and all that. So Optics ML was a third party, and they stored customer data that belongs to this mortgage company in a misconfigured cloud server that had no password protection controls in place. And what was the result? About 24 million records, that's about 51 bytes of data, which included names, sensitive information such as names, addresses, social security numbers, credit history, loan amounts, repayment schedules, were leaked out to people in the public. And this happened for over a year. People were just having access to this data. And most of, when it was analyzed, about 52 unauthorized IP addresses accessed this data, and they were mainly from Russia and China. Next slide, please. So another one is Target. Now, there's a company that specializes in providing refrigeration and HVAC systems. HVAC systems are heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems that you have in your data centers for companies such as Target. Now, attackers gained access to the Target's network with username and password stolen from this third party called Fazio Mechanical Services and had access to the target network and carried out all sorts of tasks such as remote monitoring and energy consumption and temperatures at various stores. So using these credentials that they gained from this Fazio third party, they were able to move undetected in the network that belongs to targets, gaining access to a whole lot of data from their customer service database and all that. And because of that, a lot of phone numbers, sensitive details like phone numbers, names, email addresses, payment card numbers were leaked out to the public. And these cyber criminals were able to steal 40 million credits and debit records and 70 million customer records. And of course, they faced the company faced some legal sanctions as well. Next slide, please. So we can discuss more and more, but because of sake of time, let's just click on that hyperlink order so it can take us back to our slides. All right, so there's a survey that PwC conducted for companies all over the world. We try to liaise or discuss with companies all over the world, to their C-suite executives, to based in various regions, asking them questions on how well they know their risks that are posed by their supply chain. And if you check the graph, you know that organizations largely have a blind spot to third-party risks. That means they don't have that visibility into third-party risks in their environment. So nearly a quarter have little or no understanding of all these risks. If you look at the blue bar, you can see for other risks they're quite up. But when it comes to the last part, that's the end part risk, you see that there's a slight dip there, showing you that, of course, many organizations do not have knowledge of the third-party risks. So let's look at the takeaways from the survey that we conducted. Next slide, please. So for both ways, for the chief operating officers and the supply chain executives, it's important that you map your system, especially your most critical relationship, and use a third-party tracker to find the weakest links in your supply chain. It's also important for you to scrutinize the vendors you work with, and so as to know the kind of standards that they have in place, security measures that they have in place. For the CRO, that's the chief risk officer and the CISOs, it's important to also heighten your data trust processes, because data is very expensive. Data is a target for most attackers, and it's good to heighten those your data trust processes, know where your data is coming in, how it's going out, and all that. Educate your board on the cyber and business risks from your third parties and supply chain. Build up your technological ability to detect, to resist, and respond to cyber attacks. Many people only respond to cyber attacks, but don't have that technology in place to be able to detect and resist or prevent attacks from happening. So, and of course, establish a third-party risk management office to coordinate the activities of all functions that manage your third-party risks. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So what are the common third-party risk management challenges that we have? And it all borders on scalability, complexity, and rapid changes. In terms of scalability, some organizations employ a whole lot of third-party parties, vendors, partners, and all sorts, then they can no longer manage. And this makes managing their counterpart risks very difficult to control or to monitor. It also reduces a lot of visibility, because once a vote is cluttered, we find this organization in place. And in terms of rapid changes, some organizations merge with other companies or acquired by other companies. And in doing so, they need to cope with the attendant risks that come with such mergers or acquisitions. So those are some of the challenges that affect third-party risk management. Next slide, please. So in managing third-party risks, this is a very, because this is the main thrust of the lecture itself. So in how best can we understand how to manage risks from third parties? I gave some case studies. So let's look at an example of a case study. So we'll talk about the one that had to do with Ascension, that data analytics company, mortgage company. So the most effective way to collect your risk data is to identify risks by root causes. So because the root cause would kind of tell us why an event occurred, who provided the information, and what triggers a loss, and where the organization is also vulnerable, and also come up with steps to mitigate those risks. So what were the root causes for the Ascension vendor third-party risks that they suffered? The company itself, the mortgage company itself, failed to perform a due diligence on the vendor that processed their mortgage information. They failed to perform a risk assessment on the vendor, and there were lack of contracts with the vendors to safeguard the information. And so, what went wrong? What went wrong, or what happened as a result of these root causes? Attackers were able to, or people were able to gain access to the information, and that information posed as a gold mine. And when people have information to access to information, they can employ what we call identity theft on your data, claiming to or impersonating you to perpetrate crime, to perpetrate havoc, or cause damage to your own personal assets. Your money, your credit card details, and all that will be used to siphon money from the wallets and all that. So that was one vulnerability that was a result of these failures from Ascension, the Ascension company itself. And as a result of that, of course, there will always be consequences for that. There are lawsuits from different customers and reputational damage that came, and of course, financial loss from the company itself. So what would be the best way of managing this kind of risks? Is for Ascension, the company itself, to implement comprehensive data security programs as part of settlements, as part of in trying to resolve the issues that came about, these data leakages that they have. Is also implementing a third-party risk management program that will help in scrutinizing third parties' security measures, compliance to regulatory controls, and all that will prevent these kind of things from happening, and also preventing sanctions that come from regulatory bodies, in their case, Federal Trade Commission, that's US, in implementing sanctions on the company. So let's look at the next slide that talks about managing cyber risks from third parties. So the first step would be, because the first step is for organizations to have that assets, discuss with their third parties. So in doing that, you have to map your data flow. And the process of mapping your data flow should start with working with these third parties to identify their potential risks, to assess the third parties' internal control environments, to map those risks to those controls that they have, collect relevant supporting documentation. And this information can be factored into the determination of the risks associated with each third-party engagement across various risk categories. So what you do here is also, you try to also prioritize your data governance and implement mechanisms for tracking your data easily, both in digital and, of course, physical or manual formats. Secondly, you try to assess how these third parties safeguard data. And how do you do this? You conduct assessments, you conduct audits, you try to evaluate these entities, these third parties, and their implemented security controls surrounding the protection of their information or critical assets. Now, some third parties, vendors are not really open to being audited by partners or by the enterprise company. So you could send them questionnaires as part of your due diligence during the onboarding stage, and then you get the information, analyze them, stratify the third parties according to the risks based on the attributes, based on maybe like volume of transactions, your regulated data, and all that, and all that. So that being done, you also you try to also use, the third step is try to use leading practices and industry standards. So, of course, you can set standards of best practices that these third parties should align with. For an example would be, for instance, if it's a company that deals with card data, a good example of a living standard for a third party to align with is the PCI DSS, that's Payment Card Industry Standard. That standard helps to provide a compliance framework for all companies that accept, process, store, or transmit credit card information. You should also require proof of third party's cybersecurity program. It is important, if not critical, that third party organization has a kind of a robust risk management program, and that it also has supply chain risk mitigation strategies to help remediate potential data breaches. You'll also adopt a least privilege model in providing data access. Do not provide more access than necessary to your assets, your corporate network, to third-party vendors. Holding or giving third-party vendors strict least privilege, needs to know access, will go a long way to improve your network security. Because if you translate this, a breach will of course result in this damage when the third party's vendors access is restricted to the lowest access level possible. So remember that case study I talked about targets. If Fazio had very least privilege access, of course, the damage that would have erupted from that would have been minimal. So third-party vendors, or group their accesses after it's done now, not like a day later or even a month later. So the thing is for us to think security first. Then the last one is to create and stress test your cyber incident playbook. Make your cyber incident response plan consistent with other plans for dealing with threats to business operations. So third parties should have stress test plan in place with realistic scenarios that they can test and see what can happen in case there's a breach that occurs. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Sorry, previous slide. Sorry, okay, I didn't see previous slide. I didn't see the next slide. Sorry, before the. All right, so thanks. Okay. So insights on third-party risk management. So you have different kinds of third-party risk. Business continuity risk, for instance, that's a risk of an interruption by a third party, which can affect operations, by way of, for instance, if a third party is not aligning with their service level agreements in terms of availability, that's a risk. Information security risk, the risk of or physical security is the risk of unauthorized access to sensitive data. You have physical risk, the risk of unauthorized access to your facilities or hardware that process this sensitive data. You have technology risks, the risk of inadequacy of the third-party system to provide contracted services, and then subcontracting is where the third party subcontracts your service or your offering to other fourth, fifth, or sixth parties. So it's important that these third parties should have like your organization should have a third-party risk management program in place. And what does it do for the organization? It helps to create or maybe apply a standardized approach to assessing third-party risks. It helps to manage the issues or mitigate issues that are identifiable. It helps to identify potential or emerging risks, reduce overall third-party risks, and all that. And the benefits of an effective program cannot be overemphasized in terms of cost. It reduces cost of managing your risk, higher quality. So I have like some minutes left to go. I'll soon round it up. Standardized and streamlined processes, more effective monitoring of your risk, and flexibility in terms of narrowly focusing on these specific controls and the limited resources that you have in hand. And also your shareholder value. It also helps in improving that because you're not compliant with certain laws and regulations and less issues from the regulators. Next slide, please. So So this will be my last slide. So as organization, okay, I have like 1 or 2 slides left. Okay, this should be the second to the last slide. So as we understand, organizations are facing a lot of complex regulatory requirements, third-party risks, compliance processes, and all that. So in PwC, we developed an agile framework solution that can help to track or provide a baseline set of third-party risks in your organization. And with this third-party risk solution, which is a web-based solution, it's like an integrated technology solution that delivers high-quality user experience with people, process, and technology. So we start right from the planning to the pre-contract due diligence to the contracting stage of your third parties, and then monitor the operations, the third party controls, the risks, and everything. And in terms of renewal of your contracts with these third parties, it also helps in looking at the inherent risks and recertifying the controls that are in place. So a lot of third-party inventory takes place, due diligence assessments, issue management, and of course, continuous monitoring and visibility into the activities or operations of your third parties that exist in your organization. Next slide, please. So in the under the onboarding stage of the solution, we try to identify and define your existing third parties, put in baselines, identify the higher risk, classify the risks, in terms of higher, high, low, and medium risk, and all that. Under the risk, they assess the risks of the existing third-party population, identify the third parties for their enhanced controls, their monitoring and assessing all the risks of the third party. And then under due diligence, we continuously apply due diligence applied on a global scale, according to the third-party risk level, and document red flags that exist using key risks and indicators. And we also track, under review and approval, we also track comprehensive third parties contracts to see if they are in place, and their information, and of course, everything that has to do with their certification and programs. And then report on, we have like a dashboard analytics solution that also reports on all the issues that deal with the third party, that the risks, due diligence results, the assessment results that are carried out, certifications and all that. And these reports are available 24/7. And we also maintain all the list of all the third parties, including their contracts and level of compliance to the third party risk program that is in place by the organization. All right, so I think that's, for me, that's the end of my presentation. So in concluding, the outsourcing of data to third parties is a very good business strategy, and it provides a way to offer additional services, like I've said, lower the cost to an asset. So, but there are risks that are involved, and it's important that as an organization, you gain visibility into all these risks. You put security first in your organization in such a way that you try to mitigate or reduce the risks that are amenable or caused by third parties in your environment, and you ensure that these controls and protections you have in place are adequately monitored and followed upon. So thank you very much for the time. I'm so sorry for the network issues I had, but I hope I was able to deliver the lecture within that time I had. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chika. Internet in all over the world is also a third-party risk. We can really do to improve quality from the source. So I want to let you know we have gotten so much from you, and your session today has provided two things: the lens and the mirror. Okay, so it's a mirror through which we can identify those blind spots, and also that mirror through which we can see deeper into cyberspace to remain aware of the digital landscape and those third-party risks that could be stumbling stones in our cybersecurity journey. Thank you so much, Chika. Without much ado, I want to let our participants know that we have got them covered. If you are thinking of your cybersecurity journey, we have someone who will tell you how they've done it within the capital market. And so we'll be calling on Oladotun Olorunyomi, Head IT, Meristem Stockbrokers Limited. Oladotun is an adept IT administrator and project management professional who has excelled in turning grand ideas and plans into deliverable projects. With over 10 years of extensive project management and IT infrastructure with security management experience, he has a track record of creating and delivering solutions tied to business growth, organizational development, and system/network optimization. He's an expert at managing IT systems, projects, and people in alignment with organizational goals and strategy. His specialization includes strategic planning, IT management, resource management, and information technology solutions. Thank you so much. We are glad to have you on board. Oladotun, please, you could share your screen, you could have your presentations, and we look forward to hearing from your delivery today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Moderator. Good afternoon, other panel members. I want to believe you are all hearing me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I would like to share my screen. So please do let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so thank you for having me. So I have the mandate to just speak on Maritime Stockbrokers information security journey. And I won't be taking much of our time. I will just go straight to the point. Other members of the panelists who have spoken, they've done well in marshalling the topic of today. What I have to share with us today, as I've mentioned, is basically the information security strategies of Maritime Stockbrokers Limited. And these are the things that I'll be speaking on. I'll be giving us the background to our information security strategies. Then I'll be talking about the vision and the mission of these strategy initiatives. I'll be talking about information security strategies initiatives, the journey so far, the challenges we faced and how they were combated, and how to develop information security strategies. Our information security strategy journey started in 2018. We came up with statements that provide a summary of what the company is looking to achieve in the next 3 years on information security. And this formed the basis of our information security journey. So in doing that, we had our vision, the vision of what we tend to achieve with the information security strategy, and the mission statement. And I would like to mention also that the vision and the mission statement of the information security strategy speak majorly to the overall objectives of the organization as a whole. So our vision is to leverage on technology in an efficient and secure manner to drive customer-centric and expand our revenue base. And our mission, in that sense, is to provide a comprehensive program that will increase security, and reduce risk while securely enabling access to information for those who need it in a timely manner and in an efficient manner. So, and I would like to say that this mission also speaks to the overall organization mission statement as well. So what forms the basis of our information security initiative? This is the direction at which Maritime Stockbrokers wants to go from 2018 for the next 3 years. And we prioritize all the initiatives that we have, as at that time, cascade them into a plan and spread it over the period of 3 years. So how do we develop this strategic initiatives? What we did then was to, we didn't just sit down as a
a department or IT unit within the organization and come up with strategies. No, what we did was to come up with questionnaires. We met with key personnel of the organization. We reviewed our policies, our reports, and other documentation. And doing that, we came up with a lot of initiatives which I'm going to be sharing with us today. We review all, we cascaded these initiatives. We have many of these initiatives as a result of the reviews that we conducted, and we now cascaded these initiatives and group them into what we call 8 pillars. 8 pillars which form our strategic, our information strategic initiatives. So what are these are the 8 pillars that we were able to come up with as a result of the initiatives that we were able to gather. So the first is security governance. The second is security architecture, cyber threat intelligence monitoring, data privacy and protection, application security, skills and training, business resilience and recovery, malware, and vulnerability management. And I'm glad because these 2 speakers that have spoken earlier, they've mentioned all these initiatives, and it's part of what they've recommended. So I want to take us through these objectives, these 8 pillars, one after the other, and I want to show us the strategic initiatives that are under each of these pillars. So the first one is security governance. So the objective of that governance is to actually establish governance structures to provide appropriate oversight and guidance for security initiatives. So, and under that, we have several initiatives that should be achieved. Under this, we have 6 of them, which are to build a skilled information security team, to provide a clear definition of the team members, then to appoint a CISO to develop a minimum security baseline for third-party integration, to refresh information security policy standards and procedures periodically, to conduct regular third-party security and risk assessment. I want to believe someone has mentioned this in the presentation as well. So on the second pillar, which I'll be speaking to, is the security architecture. The security architecture, the objective here is to ensure that security controls are embedded into our technology services. When I started my presentation, I was saying that our objectives also speak to the overall objective of the organization. Meristem, as an organization, have decided to leverage on technology, and our objective, our information security objective, also speak to this overall organizational objectives. So under this security architecture, we ensure that security controls are embedded into our technology to support confidentiality, integrity, and availability of business operations. So what are the things that need to be done under this initiative? So we come up with, we develop and implement a security architecture that will address new and existing technology, come up with MDM, we develop a repository, relevant security admin and configuration procedures, security consideration for taking on new technologies was done as well. Onboarding and liaising with third-party vendors should be, we centralize that part. So we ensure that change management and other liaising, other way of talking to vendors are centralized through a particular form. So the third pillar is cyber threat intelligence and monitoring. So we have an ability to monitor. The objective is to have an ability to monitor and act upon open source and third-party provided cyber threat intelligence, as well as evaluate security controls that handles the detection and mitigation of risk emanating from insiders. So the initiatives under these to develop a threat intelligence policy, ensure critical services and application are configured for audit logging, and other initiatives as well. The third and the fourth pillar is data privacy and protection. Under this, we have to establish controls around data transit, at rest, and in use, as well as ensure protection of customer and employee sensitive information. So the initiative under this is to develop a data loss protection strategy, to develop a data privacy and protection policy in line with leading standard and applicable regulatory requirements, to implement NDPR and to implement data loss protection and prevention solution at email, network, and web level, and also to implement ISO 2700 across the group. This is part of what we itemize as part of our initiative as at that time. So application security, which is one of the pillars as well, is to ensure secure development and deployment practices exist for our application. So some of the initiatives under this pillar is to include security processes in software development lifecycle. So institute a dedicated quality and assurance team for testing application before they are deployed, to conduct regular training on secure software development lifecycle management, and most of others initiatives. So also another pillar is to skill and training, to ensure that employees are provided with the targeted training they need to gain the knowledge and ability necessary to fulfill the specific security requirement. So what we do, the initiative under this is to regularly conduct targeted training to upskill teams such as secure application development, incident response, information security, and so on, and to conduct continuous security awareness for staff and customers, especially in the areas of phishing and social engineering. And we even have an acronym for this within the organization, which we call PIT, Protect Your Identity Tips, which are regularly communicated to staff. And it's just to conduct security awareness exercise. And part of the initiative as well is to for the recruitment of more staff to build teams such as information security, IT application development, enterprise risk management, and all that. So another pillar that we have is malware and vulnerability management. Here the objective is to do analysis of the malware management lifecycle, vulnerability identification, classification, remediation, and reporting capability and processes. So the initiative under this is to develop a process to actively review the installed application on users and computers for compliance with approved software, to implement the implementation of year-long vulnerability assessment and penetration testing program. And this is done regularly. Regulatory-wise, we are to conduct this twice a year, but within our organization, this is what we conduct on a monthly basis, and we get a regular, a quarterly report from the unit that is handling this process. So, and another pillar is to build a business resilience and recovery. And under this, the objective is to evaluate the organization's ability to respond effectively to unmanaged and unexpected threats to business operations to minimize operational downtime. So under this, we are to develop digital forensic and cyber incident investigation, to develop a functional backup restoration testing procedures, to conduct advanced cyber resilience assessment, cyber incident simulation, and exercise. So those are the 8 pillars that we cascaded all the initiatives that we were able to get as a result of the survey and the report that we consider. Now, we want to look at the journey so far from 2018, 2019 up to where we are and where we are going. So where are we? Now, this is to show us all the initiatives and how they were cascaded from 2019 up to for 3 years plan as we have said that we are going to do. So you can see, I'll just be picking, for the sake of our time, I'll be picking 1 or 2 initiatives from each page, and I'll be explaining them. So here now you can see that we have number 1 on the list of the initiative is to build a scaled information security team and provide a clear definition of the team members and role and responsibility. This was supposed to be done in year 2020. So, and having done that in 2020, the team handles the information securities and handles the program from beginning to the end. Another initiative is for the organization is to formally appoint a chief information security officer and to conduct regularly and refresh information security policies, standards, and procedures and guidelines. Again, part of the initiatives and the journey is to develop data loss protection strategy. This was done in 2020, and to implement Nigeria data protection regulation. So we could see that that has been implemented in 2020, and the review of policies and other deliverables that is associated with this are what we do on a quarterly basis. So implementation of data loss protection solution to email, network, and web at web levels has been implemented, and also other initiatives that that we've itemized at the beginning of the strategy development. So implementation of ISO 27701 is part of the initiative that we're supposed to do. And we know that to be certified of to be ISO certified, it goes through a process. So the process have started, and currently we have done training for our lead implementers, training for our lead auditors, and other reviews have started, and the journey have already started in earnest. And again, part of the initiative is to implement, conduct vulnerability assessment tests, which I said we do on a quarterly basis, and this is continuous, and is then development of functional backup restoration testing. This is best practice and is part of the initiatives, and is part of the 8 pillars that we have mentioned the other time, and so it's continuous. So now, having implemented this from 2018 and the journey still continues, does it mean that we do not have any challenges? No. Over time, we've had challenges, and we have ways at which we combated these challenges that we have. So I've itemized some of the challenges that we have. Yes, insider threat. And how do we combat insider threat? Constant security awareness, the implementation of 2-factor authentication. I believe, I think John Aya will mention this as part of solution. Limiting employee access only to specific resources. Then part of the threat and the challenges that we have as distributed denial of service. So how do we combat DDoS? We combated DDoS as by running our update and patching our firewalls, implementation of network visual monitoring, then optimizing our servers. Again, part of the challenges that we experienced is ransomware attack. Ransomware attack. So what we did, someone mentioned this as well, is to combat it is to have a regular backup, regular update of our software. Then advanced persistent threat attack. So deployment of cloud firewall to guard against this attack was also done. So the last one on this list is website copycat. So well, this I won't classify this to be an attack. I will classify this to be one of the business challenges. Over the years, even as a result of the COVID-19, we've seen several website cloning and social media handles that does not belong to the firm. I remember at the beginning of the year we had a Telegram page that does not belong to Meristem, and we have some people that open that Telegram. So this is like a copycat of what we do. And how do we combat this? We have to make statements, send mail out to our customers and tell them that we are not on such platform, and we constantly make right information available to our customers. So I added the last slide. So for example, if we have anybody that wants to maybe develop information security strategies, as a result of the experience that we had and what we went through earlier in developing our strategy. So, but I would like to mention that information security strategy is not meant to be perfect, but it must be proactive, effective, and actively supported and evolving. So I have just 4 steps for you to follow in developing your information security strategy. 1, first thing that you must know and understand is to understand the landscape, your security threat landscape. You must understand the environment that you are operating. You must understand fully the industry you are operating on. Then you need to assess your information security maturity. So you assess your information security maturity. You cannot implement your information security strategy within a day. You cannot implement it within a year. It's a journey that you have to undergo. Then you have to determine how to improve your information security programs. It's a programs, and you have to determine how you want to achieve it. Then you need to document your information security strategies. So when you document that, you'll be able to improve on your security program. Finally, I would like to mention to us that even if you have your security strategy, you need to prepare to rethink your information security strategy if there is a major new threat in the industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dotun. Thank you. So you heard how it was done, the Meristem Stockbroking Limited information security journey. And also one thing from Dotun that he has also passed across to us. It said, once strategy hits the realm of execution, the strategy nearly becomes obsolete because there will be new things that need to be done. And you need to factor this into the equation. So strategy is dynamic and evolving in that respect. So thank you so much, Dotun. We're going next in our series to let you know what you need to do now that you've got an online presence. We will be looking to Ua Agbonile, the CEO and Chief Software Architect of Infoware Limited. Ua is one of the managing partners of Solutaris LLC. He has over 20 years experience in the technology industry, having worked in Citibank, Chevron, and Microsoft. Before he left Microsoft to become the CEO and Chief Software Architect at his new gig, he was manager of a development group in SQL Server Engine, spanning Redmond, USA, Vancouver, Canada, and Shanghai, China. Here he was responsible for delivery of the Enterprise Data Access API stack for Windows, as well as for Microsoft SQL Server. Since becoming CEO of Infoware in 2009, UA has driven an R&D investment of over $2 million, resulting in a software product spectrum that covers investment banking, financials, consumer and retail banking, business intelligence, and mobile platform. UA led Infoware to pioneer SaaS and cloud services in Nigeria way before it became a buzzword, and helped one of its clients to become the largest retail private investment banking company in Nigeria, growing from 3 branches to nearly 30 branches in the short space of 3 years. UA's leadership has grown Infoware's customer base in a short time to include a number of Nigeria's largest investment banking financial institutions, including Big IPTC stockbrokers, EcoBank, UBA Capital PLC, Investment One, and a host of others. Infoware solution is deployed in Nigeria and other countries in Africa. UA holds a first degree in electronic engineering from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and an MBA from the University of Lagos, Akoka, and he also holds US patent number 7509538. UA has been a speaker and panelist at various international events, including the Harvard Business School in Boston, MA, University of Washington. He has also spoken at Microsoft's headquarters in Redmond, WA, TEDx Lagos, and Africa Trading Briefings in South Africa. Join me to welcome UA Agbonu. We are glad to have you here on board. Thank you so much. Please feel free to share your screen and comment your delivery. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And I believe you can see my screen. Could somebody please confirm?
Yes, I can.
So thanks, everybody. It's been a very interesting session. I've been listening to the previous speakers myself, and I think personally I've learned a lot. So my topic here is building security around your online trading applications. Basically, it's about building security around the kind of applications we use on a day-to-day basis. My focus is going to be on the capital market, but it applies generally to all kinds of applications, whether it be banking applications, your mortgage applications, or a trading applications like that relates to the NGX. So let me go straight into it. So the good news is that I think I'm going to be building on a lot of things that has been said previously. And like I said that already, there's been quite a lot of insights provided. Now, my topic here is going to be a little bit more what I call the practical side of things, which is dealing with what you and I deal with on a day-to-day basis. We all use apps. We all have to do something relating to financials literally on a day-to-day basis. So the question really is, and to set the tone for my talk here is to ask the question, are you trading securely? When you interact with whether it's your web app on your desktop or whether it's your mobile app, are you secure? Are you trading secure? And the vendors and the software vendors and the institutions providing those applications that you use, are they sure that what they are doing is secure? And unfortunately, just like the previous speakers, the answer can be a little bit surprising, and sometimes it's not as good as we would like them to be. So here is an interesting point here, which I think for a lot of us in the industry and for especially people on the wrong side of this equation that has been bitten by security, they will realize this rather painfully and personally sometimes, which is this saying that it takes 20 years to build a reputation, a few minutes of cyber incidents to ruin it. Few minutes, I would say probably takes just a few seconds. Once that announcement goes out that something has been broken into, that organization is just in deep trouble. Their reputation is gone, their reliability is gone, their ability to potentially attract new customers is now in jeopardy, and their ability to attract even new investors also in jeopardy. Whether it's a private company or a listed company, this is just one place that no company wants to be in, to be in a situation in which they have a cyber incident. So, and in the post-COVID world, in which most things and a lot of things are now online, a lot of people that used to have to go to or prefer to go to the bank personally to do the things, in-person transactions, they really have no choice. Literally everybody and my grandmother are now gone, they just have to learn how to do things in the online world. Okay, so what I'm going to do, what I'm planning to do here is that I'm going to make this thing a little bit more of a practical type of discussion. So I'm going to be using one of the apps that we built, EDIA, as a case study. So EDIA is this both from mobile platform, Android, iOS, and also web. So it covers the entire spectrum. It's even on the web, it's both mobile friendly and also desktop friendly. So you can use it literally as a desktop app, whether on your iPad, your desktop, or your laptop, or if you're on your mobile phone. So it's friendly. So first of all, apps have to be useful. One of the interesting things about security, let me give you an analogy about security, which is that you can make anything secure, really secure, right? Making something secure is not a problem. I mean, I have a number of experiences to be able to say that. No, the problem is for you to make something secure and at the same time usable. And those two things, they tend to tug at each other in a mutually opposite direction. And the challenge for practitioners is how to resolve those two, how you make something usable and at the same time secure, and without necessarily coming to too much of a compromise that compromises both. How do you get the best of both worlds? So in our case, though, so EDIA, we look at it because what does, anyway, the EDIA stuff basically is an online, is an investment application. It allows customers and users to be able to trade and engage in the equity market, both fixed income and equity, without having to go through a multitude of brokers. So it's a unified, think of it like an Uber platform, upon which you can go and basically be able to connect to any broker you want and trade with a unified interface that's secure. So some of the things that inspired the design was the platform, simplicity, flexibility, real-time market data, and something that's focused on the investor. So I'm not going to necessarily drill into all of that very too much, but this is just to set a context so that we can now talk about security and how we get about achieving these things and exactly what the challenges are in dealing with it. So just to give you some context, the EDIA application itself, so you remember what I said, simplicity, flexibility, power, ability, AI-powered stuff so that the users can, engage in the actual act that they are using, they wanted to use the app for, which is to be able to make transactions in the equity market, things like AI-powered suggestions and as to what they can buy, what they can sell. Again, doing it securely. Again, interface where you can control how your interface looks, whether you want dark mode or light mode. This is just an example of the kind of AI-powered curated list of items that you get. Okay, so now let's get to the actual topic proper, which is, okay, what are the activities that you perform on trading apps? And by the way, the context for this is this. The activities you perform on the trading apps automatically linearly correlate to the kind of security you need to be looking out for, you need to be watching out for, right? So because you have to understand what you're doing first, you have to understand the problem in order for you to solve it. So the activity you perform on your trading apps and the things you need to worry about securing is, one, you fund your account. And what do? You usually fund it either by bank transfer, or by credit card, or by debit card. That's already a major issue, because you can bet security, the bad guys, the so-called black hat people, one thing they want is your bank account and your credit card. They are out looking for that. So, and that's one of the, fortunately or unfortunately, that's one of the activities you have to perform, whether you like it or not, on such applications. So another one is keeping track of your available equity and buying power, cash and margin balances. You might think sometimes there is this thought process that, okay, the person just looking at my cash balance, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. If somebody knows how much cash balance you have, how much stocks or whatever you have, That's information disclosure. And that information disclosure can lead to all kinds of things. I mean, it can be as bad sometimes as somebody saying, okay, you know what, this is the kind of person worth kidnapping. That's an issue. So how do you protect that to make sure that that information doesn't get into the wrong hands? Another thing you do is you monitor your positions, securities that you own, and their performance. And the monitoring of your positions usually means that information has to go from one point to another. It has to come from somewhere to your device. And when it comes to that device, whether it's a desktop or a mobile, does that information get stored locally on that device? You know, a lot of applications do that for performance reasons. If it gets stored locally, then how is it stored? Is it encrypted? Can somebody that grabs that device basically use File Explorer on that device and then go through the app and then see what was saved, or is it secure? Those are the things that need to be considered. You use your app for monitoring instruments or indexes. These are indexes and instruments upon which you're going to base your investment decisions. So for example, if it's the NGX 30 and stuff like that, again, this thing may sound innocuous, but if you're making decisions on that thing and somebody, there's this what's called man-in-the-middle attack, and they send you wrong information, which makes you make invalid decisions, then it could be detrimental to you. I mean, how some of those kind of things happen is that somebody could have taken a position on an instrument or an index or whatever it is, and then want to send wrong information to a whole bunch of people so that they take a position that's favorable to them, right? So monitoring the instrument may sound innocuous, but really, really bad stuff can happen if you get wrong, or if a lot of people get wrong information and are incentivized to do something that benefits the bad person. So you give buy-sell orders. Again, it goes to information flow. If somebody can interject that, they can either see what you're buying or selling, or interject it and change it along the way. You know, both information coming to you or going outside. Then you want to create, the other thing you do is you create triggers and alerts. The creation of triggers and alerts, just like in our own application, is that you can set triggers such that when a particular price is achieved or volume is reached, you want to know so they can make some sort of decision. Again, the kind of thing that I said earlier on applies. Then another one again is to receive real-time news or video broadcasts. Again, the man-in-the-middle type thing, information misalignment or information corruption are the things you need to worry about there. Then staying in touch with the trading communities through social media and chat. So this one has all kinds of things. It now goes into the social engineering thing. The staying in touch here is good. Think about like what happened, why Twitter banned some people sometimes. So apart from just changing the information itself, is misinformation. So you have to worry about misinformation when you have something like that within the ecosystem of the app. It's just unfortunate, but that's kind of what happens. Okay. So now I've given you that previous list. Now, what are the type of vulnerabilities in trading apps? The type of vulnerabilities that like software providers need to really look into and delve into. Now, some of this is going to, the other one was, I think, easy for everybody to grasp, no matter your level of technical expertise. It was what exactly constitutes the functions of a trading app. Now, this one here, now it's a little bit quote unquote technical, but I think it's understood and understandable by everybody. So the number one of the first vulnerabilities on unencrypted communications. Now, the good news is that this is actually relatively easy to fix, but unfortunately, I think we had a number of speakers previously that laid out a number of those statistics, so I'm not going to bore you with them. Unfortunately, a very large proportion of applications, and we're not just talking about, this is worldwide, you'll be surprised. Actually, I think within the Nigerian ecosystem, with what the NGX is doing by making brokers do regular yearly vulnerability assessment tests, I actually suspect that from within the Nigerian ecosystem, statistically, that we're probably in pretty much better shape than a lot of other places. The vulnerabilities that were discovered in some of the top apps you know about in the US was just absolutely shocking. So unencrypted communications, usually every app should make sure that they're using SSL. And the SSL has been improved in terms of the bit size. The number of bits, the more bits you have for the encryption, the more secure it is. And it's a race against time, because as the number of bits are increased to increase the strength of the encryption, other people are creating machines that are faster and faster trying to break it. And I'll tell you something, one of the interesting threats, major threats in the horizon, by the way, is quantum computing. So Quantum machines are going to provide, well, a quantum leap forward in terms of computational ability. So we don't even know right now, given there was a news out just recently about IBM achieving, I think it was 120 qubits. We cannot be sure, even quite frankly right now, that even the best encryption has not been broken already. We just don't know, but at least if it's broken, it's only available to the very top people on the planet, probably the NSA and entities like that. So at a minimum, all apps need to make sure they are using encrypted communication. And because that's actually relatively easy to achieve. You just make sure you're going through an SSL certificate, you disable non-SSL means of communication. That will take you a lot of the way there. The next one is password stored unencrypted. This is actually one of the biggest issues that is this. When we hear about hacks, and I think one of the previous speakers mentioned this, the hacks that are going on these days about data being stolen. One of the reasons why they are stealing that data is not just where there's the value of the data, is usually to steal passwords. And unfortunately, a large proportion of applications out there, they actually store password unencrypted. In my opinion, it's actually a bad idea to even store the password at all. Not to talk of storing it unencrypted. For us, we don't store passwords. We actually store a computational version of the password that is not reversible, a one-way hash preferably. A one-way hash is something is where you take a value, say the password, you convert it into some sort of bits and bytes, and you convert it using a mathematical formula to something else in such a way that that conversion to that something else, you cannot reverse it. So it means that if a user within an InfoWare application stores their password, even InfoWare cannot decrypt it. We can't, because it's a one-way function. The only best thing you can do is guess the password. So therefore, the remedy for that, therefore, is to make sure your password is strong enough. If you make your password strong enough, you are literally safe. Even if the database upon which that hashed function is stored is stolen, it still cannot be broken. I mean, the linearity towards breaking it is totally dependent on the user's password strength. And by the way, most of the time, most of our customers, we recommend for them already a password strength, and the system can actually enforce that users maintain a certain degree of password strength, right? Which again mitigates against, even if the database is stolen and the bad people, the black hat people have the data, the hash function, they can go pull it the other way around. Well, assuming we are not using some sort of a quantum machine, but I don't think that's practical yet. So another one, lack of two-factor authentication. This has been mentioned. So the two-factor authentication issue here is that if you enter your password and you have just your password only, well, now the risk now is on whether somebody can get your password, guess it, or whatever it might be, right? Two-factor authentication advisable is that you have some other independent entity that you can use to validate the password. The Modest or whatever, the Hillary Clinton person thing, that was the reason why they were able to crack that person's email and get into it. But I'm pretty sure after that, they definitely introduced the two-factor authentication. There are all kinds of two-factor authentication. It could be via device. It could be, I mean, in most mobile apps, this is most strongly advised that in your phone, you don't just have some sort of a key pin pad for getting in, but in your actual device itself, also you use something like your thumbprint or your eyelids or whatever to get access to some of these applications. So that's what that's about. So storing sensitive data unencrypted in devices, I mentioned that already in the previous slide. This has to do now at the development level. When data is being stored, and sometimes this data that's being stored, people make a mistake and not realize that you can store data without necessarily knowing that you're storing data. A simple one is cookies. Cookies on websites, something. Usually websites use or developers use cookies to persist certain kinds of information that saves you the trouble, at least that helps them remember you so that they can give you a much better user experience. So it's critical that those cookies be stored in encrypted form. Otherwise, if somebody grabs hold of that machine, or worst case, let's assume you were in a public place, you were traveling, you happened to go to a kiosk and you logged in to see something, blah, 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 maybe just to see your positions and you walked away. somebody that has access to that machine can go back to that browser potentially and look at the cookies. And if they are not stored encrypted, they can get a lot of information about you, which might even include your password, which just might include your password. So it can be that bad. So another one is lockout of, lack of lockout for idle sessions. It simply means after a certain amount of inactivity, the system should automatically log you out. Because, sometimes we're all human, we make mistakes. You get interrupted, just having a conversation, and all of a sudden you get off your desk. And before you know it, somebody else could just come to that place there and perform an operation. You get back to your desk, you don't even know it. Either they've transferred money out of your bank account or done something in your name that you were not aware of, but it has your name tag on it, and now you're liable. Hard-coded secrets in code and app obfuscation. And this one is something that happens actually in a lot of applications, unfortunately. Where secrets, what are considered secrets, all kinds of things. It could be passwords or settings or to access something else that may not even seem to be related to you. They are hard-coded. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes a hacker can cause, let me give an example of where that can be dangerous. People don't know about the so-called blue screen of death or whatever it is. A hacker can actually use a development tool like Visual Studio, hook onto the app and grab a dump. Grab what's called a debug dump of it. And with a debug dump, you contain the entire memory stack, and it can keep looking and just paging down that memory stack until it finds something that looks like interesting information. Unfortunately, that thing may be in plain text even. So from a development standpoint, even within the application, you can use encrypted. There are some programming languages that have the concept of encrypted strings. So if you have a password, from the point in time when you use the keys in that password, even between that and you hashing it up, it should never be exposed. You should make sure it's stored within an encrypted string, so that by default it's encrypted at the operating system level, not even just you, which makes it you're guaranteed a strong measure of security. No cybersecurity guardians on online trading threats. So this is really referring to something that a number of people have already mentioned. It has to do with the fact that we as an industry, we have a responsibility to actually educate and really educate the populace about cybersecurity threats and stuff like that. So it's the goal there, and we all need to do a better job of this, is to include tips, hints, and all kinds of things that educate the public, the users of the application, as to what is recommended. Sometimes maybe a little bit inconvenient, but it's something that we all need to do. DOS and SQL, DOS means denial of service, and SQL injection. SQL injection is actually the most common kind of vulnerability in most apps. The good news is that there are a lot of testing and stuff like that that can very quickly find them out. Again, I would say the good news is that most of it is gone, but it's still there. Junior developers that don't know what they're doing, they can very easily create that thing without understanding what's going on there. And then you can also mitigate that by the architecture of your system. So direct database access, bad idea, because it leads to all kinds of really bad stuff going on. Denial of service has to do a little bit with infrastructure and something with your own application. With the application itself, you need to make sure that there's a certain maximum number of, say, connections you're going to allow. It's a mitigating factor. If you think you're exceeding that, then deliberately increase it instead of just allowing it random. Because if you allow it randomly, then somebody could just push in 1 million requests and stop anybody else from being able to access it. So if your system can really take maybe a maximum of 100,000 requests at a time, cap it. If it goes beyond that, the inconvenience to the 101,000th person instead of everybody not being able to access your system. Authentication token as a URL. Now, I hope I can explain this so that everybody understands it. So usually in your browser, right, you see the URL there, and as you navigate from point to point, your URL actually changes. Unfortunately, if you don't code properly, the URL may actually contain sensitive information that's visible. Could be visible to you, or could be visible to somebody looking over your shoulders. Then there's a second aspect of that that's bad. Anything in the URL almost usually gets logged as part of the web server, in the web server logs. It's not as bad in the sense that the web server logs are only accessible by the administrators, but again, it's accessible by some administrators. So if there's somebody bad in-house and they have access to those logs, they could see a lot of information about what's going on. So developers need to mitigate against that in the trading apps they build. Then unhandled exceptions. On handle deception, this information disclosure is when an error, unexpected error happens. And well, a bad person, usually the first thing they do, one of the first things that hackers do when they want to probe a system is to try and cause some sort of error to happen. Because when errors happen, if you do not prepare properly for it and you show the entire exception stack, the squiggly stuff that seems scary to most users that show up on the screen, a lot of the time that information is very, very useful to a hacker. It can tell them the kind of programming language you're using, can tell them the kind of operating system that's behind the curve. It can even potentially, if you're not careful, show them database that's in use and even database credentials in some cases. If, for example, it's showing the SQL connection string, then everything, all bets are off. The guy basically owns you at that point. Okay, you see, I need to rush this up a little bit because of time. Now, other type of vulnerabilities, this has more to do now with the system upon which you host the application, like a HTTP security headers. These ones are kind of could be easier to deal with to some extent because it's not the app now, it's usually the infrastructure, how you configure it properly. I already mentioned the sensitive data in the URL. Okay, so again, I've related some of these things to what we do in InfoWare. So for us, we invest deeply in security, and we take our responsibility very seriously. 80% of, there was a recent, I think we mentioned in there, October, 80% of the trades, of the top 10 trades that happen here in the NGX actually goes through InfoWare systems. So we know that therefore security for us is a very, very serious business, just because we know what will happen if something goes wrong with what we build. So for us, security is not an afterthought. Security is designed in. And this is something I'm going to strongly advise the industry. There's a tendency a lot of the time to just build first because you just want product to go out and then think about security later. When you do that, there's almost always going to be trouble. It's almost always going to be trouble. I said that twice. You want to design security from the ground up into whatever you're building. There has to be security training for employees, everybody in the ecosystem. Remember, employees are actually the weakest point a lot of the time due to social engineering attacks. So we need to make sure the entire ecosystem is safe. You need to create and build and factor in periodic and detailed vulnerability assessment tests so that independent of you, let a third party with the expertise, a lot of time they have far more experience than you do, to go through your system and then come and give you back a report that is neutral, so that you don't use internal eyes to color it, And then secure your devices. We have our own domain, and we make sure we have a firewall that everybody installs that continuously learns, so that if a hack tries to happen on one machine and it's prevented on that machine, then by the time it's trying to get to the other machine, that hack or that attempt is already known and prevented. Yeah, that's what I mean by threat monitoring software that learns on all machines. And then use and follow standards. Don't try to create your own security infrastructure. Don't try to create your own way of creating your own passwords. Just a bad idea. A lot of course, the standards you have to follow are the good standards, because sometimes the people that have been tasked to do those things, they have massive PhDs in all kinds of things they do. My previous life, I worked in Secure Server Engine, and there were PhDs that specialized in just little things just to make that thing rock solid. So following standards is usually a good idea. Usually, not all the time, but usually a good idea. Then stay abreast of latest security threats and mitigations. Just InfoWare, or I'll look at reputation, let me not bore you with this. So who we are, I didn't really talk. So I mentioned a little bit of it. We make software, we cover about 3 countries, AI powered. So we use artificial intelligence to monitor exactly what happens within our own ecosystem and to detect some of these vulnerabilities and continuously adjust. We're very, very conscious about security. My role is actually that of CEO and Chief Software Architect. Chief Software Architect part is really my key contribution to InfoWare. Okay, so our product spectrum, we cover both not just online trading, the OEMS, investment bank, is the entire investment banking ecosystem, including data analytics, our customers. And then in conclusion, just to conclude and round this up, right? So the very first thing is that security should be treated as a first-class design issue. I repeat that. I want to repeat that again we as the industry participants need to be clear on this. It's a first-class design issue, not an application.
Thank you. I just help us because we still have other things to go into, but this is fantastic.
Yeah, this is the last slide.
Thank you.
This is the last slide. So all desktop, mobile, and web platforms should be tested and improved, right? The regulations should encourage brokers to implement safeguards for a better trading environment. Should develop these trading specific guidelines. I think that would be a good idea for us to have something of a little bit of a global guideline set of things. Not mandates, but I believe in guidelines more than mandates. Brokers should perform regular internal audits. I mentioned that already. And a periodic, vulnerability assessment test should be done by developers. Then end users should enable all security mechanisms that the applications and their apps have to offer to prevent all kinds of social engineering attacks. So that's it. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uwa. Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate our participants, and we know the time is fast spent. So at this point, we will just go into what we have left so that we can make it for 2 and then close the session for 2. Thank you very much, all the speakers. It's been wonderful. It's been a time of learning and relearning. So I will call the X-Academy rep to speak to us on what we have in X-Academy. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, but you may speak a bit louder.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Badere. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. My name is Wasiu Oladipupo, and I work with the X Academy as a research and library coordinator. I'm representing my HOD, Ms. Ugochi Obi, who is unavoidably absent. Of course, she sends apologies and regards. So quickly, I'd just like to, I'm sorry, I had to stop my video because of my network. Yes, so of course, the X Academy is delighted to be part of this Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum, saying that we are the learning center of the Nigerian Exchange Limited. I'm also responsible for providing training and human capacity development services to individuals and corporates from both Nigeria and other countries. What's that? Great. Now, as a knowledge product of the NGX, and although we were formally launched in 2017, we nevertheless have over 35 years of training. At the X Academy, we seek to empower individuals and businesses to create value and develop superior performance. Hence, we're responsible for providing training as a service to capital market participants, investors, and the general public that are interested in various aspects of capital market trainings and trending topics within the finance and investment industry. So in pursuant of that goal, we work with highly rated subject matter experts from professional institutions and individuals to deliver world-class training programs. As you can see on the screen, these are some of the course categories that we have. We offer courses spanning several areas, and that is including the listing, trading, and investment area. We also offer trainings on market data, financial technology, and regulatory technology. We have courses on sustainability and eco business financing, risk management and compliance, etc. And we are partners with several international and reputable organizations like the Center for International Private Enterprises, the CIPE, the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment UK, CISI, the Institution of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, Institute of Directors, Center for Corporate Governance, B&G Consulting, and so on and so forth. All of this is to ensure that our clientele are exposed to up-to-date, valuable, and top-notch information and knowledge. Then, as with many of our endeavors, today it is no-brainer that the capital market infrastructure is heavily technological. And with the rising adoption comes rising threats. The earlier speaker, Mr. John Ayawu, mentioned some of these threats that includes ransomware, phishing, and so on, and also the impacts that it can have both on businesses and individuals. And Mr. Uwa, who just recently spoke, gave some practical examples that amplifies how some of these things are realistic and closer than most of us think. But one, very positive that I think I also gained from the previous speaker is Mr. Oladotun Oloriyomi, who pointed out that we can combat this risk and mitigate the impact through skills and training development. And so that would then, lead us to what the X Academy is also doing in regard of this. We have, gone ahead to partner with EC Council. We did mention them in the list of our partners to provide world-class trainings and certification to our stakeholders and interested persons. The EC Council is a global leader in cybersecurity training and certification and has developed and owns a unique range of cybersecurity trainings and certification programs that are globally recognized and endorsed, including the Certified Ethical Hacker and also the Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator. Some of their courses, that we have and we are licensed to offer trainings and certification are the cybersecurity awareness we have for application security, penetration testing, computer forensics, business continuity and disaster recovery, and so on and so forth. So our partnership with EC Council is one that gives us this opportunity to try to bring home some of these things that have been talked about in this forum to our stakeholders. And then, so I'd also like to just quickly talk about the methodologies that we use in delivering our trainings. We have the face-to-face means, of course. We have the online platform, if that is what is convenient for you as a person who is interested in our training. And also we have an hybrid approach here. We have a mixture of both the physical sessions and online sessions. With just this, I would like to say thank you for listening. And if you're interested in our trainings and certification, I would like to reach out. Our email is on the screen, x-academy@ngxgroup.com. And also you can check us on the website to gather more information, www.ngxgroup.com/x-academy. And you can also call any of the phone numbers that are on the screen. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Wasil. Thank you, X Academy team. That's the training arm of the NGX Exchange. So you see that it's a one-stop shop for all trainings. So Judy, I'll hand over back to you while we call on one of our sponsors, the part of the people that make today happen. So we have AAA Beats talking to us on how to secure the capital markets. So AAA Beats, you can stop sharing so that we have AAA Beats. Francis, could you share the screen? Could you share your screen and project the slide while we have AAA Beats for the next 10 minutes? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
We can see your screen and your voice is a bit faint.
Okay. Yeah, hello, good afternoon. Is it better now?
Yes, we can hear you. Slightly better, but you could up the volume if possible.
I'm trying. Yeah, hello, good afternoon. Is it better, please?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon to all the panelists, all attendees, the Nigerian Exchange Limited, and to every other person listening to this webinar. Ademola Ladi is my name, and I work with Triple Abyss Consulting as a principal consultant. So quickly, we'll run you through some of our service offerings, but we won't just run you through the service offerings without putting a premise to the discussion, or as to why we make, or as to why we have some of those offerings that we have. So in my own modest word, when we discuss cybersecurity, and when I see not much attention being given to it, and then I say not to be concerned about cybersecurity, is to stay without your phone, your tablet, computer, and even instant messaging, and possibly even stay out of business. Because the reality of the times we are in is that once there's a touch point, though each of those touch points act as an attack surface. I'll go straight into the presentation introduction.
Hello, Mr. Ademola. Kindly share your screen, please. I'm having an issue sharing it from my end. Thank you.
I think I did that already. Hello, can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
So,
all right, thank you. So I'll just go straight into it in the interest of time. So areas of focus, we look at cybersecurity tools of surge. We look at attacks and attackers. We look at security options that are available for most organizations to take. And we take a final look at triple bit approach to approaching cybersecurity for our own clients. So cybersecurity tools of surge. So looking at the image that we have here, we see a lot of systems, tables, people, and working in all of these will be processes or methods that the entity must have adopted to make sure that security operations are in place or are proper. But the question this begs is, what is the need to have a plethora of tools and other processes that were probably not needed 5 decades ago? So again, still on these, are we attacking? I mean, do we have an offensive center where we attack other businesses, other nations, as we see happen in some cases? Or are we being attacked, or just unnecessarily being scared or paranoid over what is not? So again, still following up on this on the earlier screen, is a new habitat has been created, and that habitat is full of activities that is quickly taking over what we used to have, quickly taking over how we used to interact before now. So now this new habitat also needs some kind of protection, just like we have the police or the soldiers protecting land habitat, and you have the naval forces or the air forces protecting sea and the air respectively. So same thing applies to the cybersecurity, to the cyberspace. So cybersecurity is a way to protect or to mitigate risk in the cyberspace. And because almost everyone is also in the cyberspace these days, especially after post-pandemic, even businesses that would see going digital as a taboo, everybody was forced to go into digital operations. But of course, unless such business would have shut down for at least a year, when people were not really going to work in the conventional way. So again, the new habitat is the cyberspace, and funny enough, it has no clear boundaries. You have to secure your own space. So from governments to businesses, even to the personal space that we have taken in the cyber world, everybody is responsible for his or her own security in the cyberspace. This is the reality of what we have now. But again, still in this, we still find it amusing that CISOs or even at times, risk officers find it difficult to get some people on board when it comes to cybersecurity. And we've had cases where, no offense to anyone anyway, but where core business guys or CFOs tell the security people, what are you securing? What are you doing? Where is the firewall? We can't see anything. Yes, we can see the CCTV, but this cyber threat you're talking about, we can't see it. So, and that is what this image tries to portray. The guy on the ladder trying to look for what the security man is explaining to the executive management or the board around security. The other lady there, maybe the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, still trying to look for the cybersecurity threat as well. But the attacks are real. The attacks are real. So Verizon data breach incident report shows us this. If we go through such report, you see evidences of incidents that we've had globally. So if you also follow Microsoft, you see things from them. If you follow IBM, you see things from them. And also various airlines on the global news. SolarWinds was the case that took so much attention. JBS, one of the largest meat supplier in the world. I mean, they had such a user, and it was reported that they had to pay $11 million to solve the ransomware attack they had. And I'm happy Mr. John Haya mentioned a lot around ransomware. Yeah, so it's rumored that they made payments to it, so $11 million. JP Morgan and the rest of them. So if these guys could have all of this, then nothing stops any other business here locally from having it. And attacks, are the attacks really there? Attackers really there? Yes, they are there. You have attackers that are low skilled, not really skilled, but they also don't have any focus. All they do is also drive around, surf around, and come up with and attack the lowest hanging fruits. You also have attackers that have low skill, but they have high focus. So that means they may pick any organization, stockbroker, regulator, bank, as a focus, and they play around until they get something. But the point to take away from this slide is no business should make itself a low-hanging fruit, because economics also come into play into security now. Everybody wants to do more with less. So this is what we try to communicate from this slide on the attack actors analysis. You also have the high skill, low focus. So with the high skill, these are the real guys that really know the stuff, and they can do a lot around hacking. But with low focus, one could hire them anyway. If you don't have the skill, you could hire them to say, you need to help me do this. And they do it. It happens on the dark web. If you also follow the dark web to some extent. You also have the high skill, high focus, but that applies more to APT, advanced persistent threats, and nation-sponsored attacks. So to further hit, pillars of security strategy or plan. Any security strategy or plan would revolve around three major things: prevention or protection. Detection, should in case you're unable to protect, to prevent or to protect. And response, if it happens, what do we do? So we find that in our climb, response is a bit on the low from research we've done. People pay much attention on prevention, putting the firewalls, what have you in place. But these days, maybe more effort should be put on response, because it's not a matter of if you will be breached. It's a function of when. So security technologies. There are a number of technologies that you can use to help your business. You have technologies that help you address infrastructure security. DDoS. I'm happy Ola.2 of Meristem also mentioned things around DDoS protection. And other technologies that you can use on now as shown on this slide. You have technologies that can help you around content or data security, ranging from governance, data classification, to DLP, database security, and the rest of them. You have technologies that can help you around identity security. And also, John Haya, Chika, and even Uwa mentioned things around multi-factor authentication, which would help you mitigate identity theft. Now that we are even moving towards people working remotely, logging into different portals to do different things. So the multi-factor technologies help you to achieve some of those things. And that's just a one part of the identity security. Having 2FA, it's been proven, we've seen it happen with different clients, is not enough to help you around identity security. Depending on kind of environment you run, whether you're in low security, medium security, or high security environment, you may want to take it up to pick a high level just to be sure of what we have around identity security. We also have technologies around server or application security, which will also still help you. You have things around advanced persistent threat security. Unfortunately, if anyone is suffering from advanced persistent threats, there is no sure way to stop it. It happened to Sony. They had millions of dollars in budget, but they still had this, but they still attacked and the breach still happened. But of course, if you have a proper security strategy, you would know when things are happening, and you will know what to do to at least mitigate or to reduce the impact. So from this, as an organization or as a CISO or a security person, or even as a risk officer, which would you consider the best tool to address your cybersecurity challenges? Is it tools around attack, tools that give you defense, or tools that give you a response? There is no one cap fits all. So, and that is why in our approach in AAA bits, we just don't tell you to license tools. We look at your relevant risk. And when we look at those risks, we help you align the right security tools to help you. So part of the questions we ask would be, what are the strategies for the business in the immediate, in the short, and the long term? Are you considering remote working? Are you considering cloud adoption, amongst other things? What kind of service do you offer? Do you offer your service online, physical, or you have a hybrid? Is your operation 24/7 or just 5 days in a week and 12 hours? Do you have any regulatory mandate around business continuity or cybersecurity? How do you know if you're under attack? So when we combine responses from all of these things, from this dialogue, we are able to come up with a tailored strategy that will be cost-effective and that will be measurable in your for your cybersecurity strategy or roadmap. So our AAA bit service offering still includes enterprise cybersecurity architecture design, business continuity and IT disaster recovery planning, user awareness trainings, managed security services. So this we do currently in the core financial service sector, where we manage security applications for a number of commercial banks. So we do that. And also, these days, IT disaster recovery is something that should be given so much attention, because that is what also to say you can continue business if one or two of these risks should materialize. Some of our OEM partners that we work with in order to be able to offer you technologies that will help your business, VMware, Tripwire, Crest, Imperva, and the rest of them. There are some others, but what we do is to first look at the business, sit together, look at the objectives of the business, see your kind of operation, and from there we can define a tailored solution that will give you a strategic roadmap into year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, so that at any point in time you can know the status of your environment. Again, AAA Bits Consulting is a solution provider, and we are focused on helping your business meet the objectives in the most secured manner. We just don't want you to just license security products, but have a carefully planned fit of tools that will help you. Please feel free to reach us at this email, service@AAABitsconsulting.com. That's our phone number. That's our website as well, www.AAABitsconsulting.com. And also, as a complimentary service for this session, so we are offering a complimentary consultation, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. It's at no cost for any organization that is interested in this, provided it doesn't go against your security policy. So we'll be happy to discuss with you, share insights on what you could do, and this will apply to your first 10 confirmed schedules. So feel free to use the link. Feel free to use the link. Feel free to use the link here to register. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Demola. I think you should just put the link in the chat box so that they all can see and take up this opportunity. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So can we have Active Edge? Active Edge, Adeshola, are you on the call? Okay, while we wait for Active Edge to come up, Jide, can we go to what we have next on the agenda? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yemi. We have a video for a short video of more than 2 minutes to let us know something on information security. We also have Adeyemi trying to reach us, so please continue with the video.
No, Jide, Adeshola is on the call. Let's have Adeshola before we go to this. So Adeshola, can Adeshola be given rights to share the slide? Adeshola Elumade.
One moment, please. Let me promote him to a panelist. He's in the attendee list. So I'm just going to do that so he can share his screen. Adeshola should be able to share his screen now.
Okay, thank you. Adeshola, would you be one speaking? Are you the one speaking?
No, thank you so much. Yes. So as I had mentioned, yes, during my chat to you, George Agu will be presenting for Active Edge Technologies, but I will be sharing our slides.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then please, could you confirm that George Agu is indeed on the call?
Yeah. Hello, please could you give Mr. George Agu the access to share the slides, please?
I have here Maduka Agu. I don't have George Agu.
Please confirm.
Hello, we don't have George Agu currently on the call. We have Maduka Agu. Can you confirm if that's the same person? Okay. Mr. Aliu Balogun, I'm now going to promote you as well.
Aliu, please, could you confirm if George is signed on as Maduka Agu? Thank you.
Actually, George is on the call. Oh, George is on the call. Oriafe, could you check?
We're just trying to confirm the name that appears when he's joined.
Yes, I am actually.
So thank you, Mr. George.
All right, thank you. Perhaps I'm not the one sharing, so maybe if you're the one sharing, you can put it in presentation mode so that I can start. Okay, so essentially, good afternoon, those who are listening. It's my pleasure to be here, and I want to stand on existing protocols. We are a Pan-African information security, information technology company, and security is one of the flagship products that we actually provide in the market, right? So, and I would just not want to waste time here. We are here to talk about zero trust. And essentially, I would like to start by talking about leveraging cybersecurity as a competitive advantage by organizations. You know, over the years, cybersecurity has emerged from being a part of organizational strategy to coming to become so much central to organizational strategy, and a lot of regulations are popping up every day, all in a bid to ensure that organizations are catching up and complying with standards out there. But pursuing standards is good, but pursuing cybersecurity as a competitive advantage is really where organizations should focus. So I'm going to talk about zero trust, which in our own parlance we call security immunity, where organizations are looking at least privileges and a way to ensure that their organization is immune to attacks. Over the years, organizations have, go back to the previous slide, over the years, organizations have focused on securing their head offices and their branches, as the case may be, because traditionally, customers who want to get services go to this place to get service, but it doesn't work anymore. So in those days, cyber attackers would want to attack the head office so that they can gain access to customer data, or as the case, other data as the case may be. But that has since changed with digital transformation, you know, in the sense that endpoint is the center of security. So cyber attack is now endpoint centric, which is why we say that perimeter is dead. So securing your head offices and your brick and mortar doesn't suffice. Customers now can do virtually everything, either from their computers or from their mobile phones or some other devices, as the case may be. And with COVID in place and the global pandemic, it has even become more pervasive, where customers and even staff of organizations now operate from the comfort of their homes. So this is why zero trust is very important. And zero trust, in a very simple way, is a way of saying, look, firstly, do not trust. So if you go to the next page, I'll talk a bit more about zero trust and some of the principles guiding it. Okay, good. So what are the principles of zero trust? Number one, and I'm going to make this very simple. Number one is never trust, always verify. All right, so the main goal here is to secure your corporate resources and eliminate any persistent trust in everything. And in everything, we mean identities, devices, applications, infrastructure, and data. The second one is assume there's a breach. So your mindset when you assume that there's a breach, and your mindset when you think you've secured yourself is never the same. And this should not just be for the CISO. This shouldn't be for the CIO. This actually be to those actually making key decisions in the organization, starting from the managing director of the organization or the CEO, as the case may be. So assume that there's a breach is a principle that derives from a speech by General Michael Hayden, the former director of CIA and NSA. And he said, fundamentally, if somebody wants to get in, they are getting in. So assume that there's some weakness in your security infrastructure so that you can be a lot more proactive in addressing security issues. Third one, verify explicitly, because security and identities can be forged and access can be duplicated. Therefore, verification is needed. Zero trust is like an airport with multiple security checks, from the ticket counter pre-check and again before you board the plane. So there's a lot of multiple checks here and there, starting from the static parameters to dynamic parameters like password, biometric security tokens, etc., to things like risk-based access, user and identity, behavioral analytics, and etc. So just go to the next one, which is, can you move to the next one, please? So we're going to talk about a very high-level architecture of zero trust. Essentially, what are we looking at here? We're looking at the device with which you're going to have to connect to the resources in an organization. We're looking at the policy enforcement points which organization put in place, and we're looking at the actual thing that you actually consume, which is the resources that have been provided by way of services, as the case may be. So zero trust is not a product. It's very important that we understand that, but rather multiple capabilities that is put together simultaneously to ensure that your security objectives are achieved. So we're looking at a number of things here, looking at the control areas and, for example, identities which users use to gain access to the roles and privileges that have been defined. We're looking at the devices that are using to gain access. We're looking at the applications that eventually they're going to use by way of workflow, as the case may be. We're looking at the infrastructure that is set up for monitoring and alerts, as the case may be. We're looking at the network. Your internal network is not considered an implicit trust zone. Data encryption also is very important in transit and data at rest, with whitelisted policies on how the data can be accessed and used. So this architecture, essentially, the upper one is looking at the control plane. The lower one is looking at the data plane. Data plane operates at user device, it operates at policy enforcement points, and then it applies at enterprise resource level. And at the top, we try to address some of the things that matter. I'm not going to take more time here. On the device side, we're looking at things like activity logs, threat intelligence, industry compliance, continuous diagnostic and mitigation solution or supporting components, as the case may be. Now, the policy enforcement points essentially looking at the policy administration, policy engine, rules, and etc. And then from the enterprise resource point, you're going to be looking at things like your security intelligence platforms or privileged identity systems, as the case may be, or public infrastructure, data access policy, supporting components. And something that's very important for executives to appreciate is, number one, you can never misspend or overspend in security, but you can misspend. Therefore, it is very important to tie your security investment to your strategy, to overall strategy, so you can know how to prioritize. Since security comes in layers these days, you need to determine, how do I start and how do I finish? Can you go to the next slide, please? So this is essentially the point we're trying to make here, which is about the zero trust architecture. Trust no one, verify everything. And essentially what we're saying here is that the zero trust benefit assessment tool is available for you to use, and you can engage us to discuss more about this. You can see our link down. And over the next, in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about what we do as a company so that you can have better idea of what ActiveEdge is. We are present in virtually every bank in this country. We're also very prominent in a lot of big banks in Africa, from Kenya to Uganda to South Africa to Zimbabwe. We're present in a lot of banks in Nigeria. We're the biggest regional partner of IBM Security in the region. And the approach that we have taken is what we call security immune architecture, or zero trust security model, where first and foremost, you have to deal with your security intelligence platforms, and then you have to then dimension various touch points of security and define how you're going to have to deal with it. So I'm not going to go into discussing each of these, from your threat intelligence and threat hunting and threat monitoring platforms to your security analytics, to the network data, identity and access issues, application, mobility, mobile issues, and endpoints, as the case may be. So within the organization, for example, we have 3 different divisions inside our cybersecurity practice. One being digital trust, that deal with identity issues, one being the threat intelligence part, and then one being risk, fraud, and compliance part. So each of these, is quite broad, accordingly. So I'll now go and give you a bit more information about ActiveEdge for those of us who want to know. Julie, if you go to the next slide, let's talk about it. Can you go to the next slide, please? So essentially, this is how we're organized as a company. The key areas of expertise, we have a technology team that actually builds solutions, payment solution, reconciliation, and settlement solution. These are some of the things we build, and they run in a lot of Pan-African banks. Governance, risk, and compliance is a practice. Enterprise application is a practice. Infrastructure and cloud is a practice. Digital business automation or digital business transformation is a practice. And of course, cybersecurity is a practice that looks after the previous one I just discussed. I mean, we have grown from a staff base of about 10 years ago to over 100 persons that work in the organization, just in Nigeria alone. And on the right side, you're going to see the building blocks of our practice, like I tried to explain earlier on. It's not much different from what I explained earlier. It is out of the expertise that we have that will actually build the practices that exist within the organization. So I'm going to make you a request that you kindly go to the next slide, which is to say that we appreciate your inviting us to this session. We do hope that we'll be able to make some point on the zero trust architecture, or what we call security immune architecture. We appreciate you for inviting us, and we're available to speak to you more about how we can be of value to your organization. If some of you guys are in the banking sector or some other sectors like telco, you would have heard about Active or interacted with us in one way or the other, but we're most grateful to be here. Thank you very much. And I want to encourage NGX in what it's doing. This is very commendable. Please keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you very much, Jide. This is very much appreciated. Thank you. We say thank you to everyone that has been on this call. We have taken your time. We would have loved to do more, but as it is, we know that you need to go back to your duty post. We appreciate everyone that has been on this call. We say thank you so much for the time spent. Like I said, that it has been an industry-wide collaboration in knowledge deepening and idea sharing session. We've talked about ransomware, we talk about the cybersecurity worth in this present age. We've talked about the third-party risk. And Maritime, one of our top 3 compliance trading license holder, has walked us through their journey. And I'm particularly, delighted about their strategy and how they have been able to group all these initiatives into groups that help them achieve compliance, help them meet their objectives. So please, I would want us, we will share slides with you. Once we confirm from Maritime, if we can share, we will share with you. We want you to, when you walk on the path, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's always good to work on and establish a proven path. And that's what Maritime has come to share with us. And thank you very much, InfoWare, for guiding us on what vulnerabilities we have in the trading apps and how best to mitigate this. And to the sponsors, AAA, thank you so much for your time. Active Edge, thank you so much too. We know that our participants they have seen the both of you, and they will reach out to you vendors to see how you can help them customize their information security need and deliver a solution that is competitive and as a cost advantage for them. So thank you very much on behalf of the information security team. We acknowledge the support of the CEO of NGX Limited, Temi Popola, for the support he's giving us to have this conference, and to the executive management of NGX Limited, we appreciate, and to the departments that supported us in the background in NGX Limited, as well as NGX Regulation, Corporate Comms, Market Operations, Contact Center, Broker Dealer Regulation, Listing, LRD, Listing Regulation departments. We appreciate all these departments, both from NGX and NGX Regulation. Thank you very much. I say thank you again for being at the 9th edition of the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum. I said together, we would continue to build a sustainable and competitive capital markets. On this note, I say thank you very much to everyone. And then I look forward to seeing us and many more of us at the 10th edition of the Nigerian Capital Market Information Security Forum. We will share the slides, like I said. The team, information security team and the ERM team, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. You are free to chat any comments you have for us as you go. And please, as you go, between 1 to 5, kindly help rate this event so that we know what you want us to improve on and what to find worthwhile. As you go, drop that as a last chart, rate 1 to 5. And if there's anything you want us to do more, we're ready to do that, because we must together build a cyber resilient capital market. Thank you very much. Thank you. Much appreciations. Jide, you have anything to say to our people?
For the questions and answers, if they can just drop an email, we'll definitely get across to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we see Maduka Agu now. So Maduka Agu is not George Agu. Thank you, Maduka. Thank you all.